In a contemporary office, a young man with eyes full of stress confides in Kubo-san that he's reached his breaking point. A frantic voice on the line reveals that two teammates are also quitting, with a deadline looming tomorrow. His face tightens as he absorbs his superior's panicked words. The voice on the other end urgently begs him to come to the office for a discussion. Hiding in a restroom stall, his mind echoes with desperate pleas for assistance, overwhelmed by the impending deadline and his team's disintegration. He regrets sacrificing his rest and returning home just to tackle an impossible timeline. A close-up of his eye shows the depths of his exhaustion and despair. Realizing he hasn't rested at all, he opts for a brief break, leaning against the wall. His consciousness drifts into a dark haze as he succumbs to fatigue. A rough voice jolts him awake, scolding him for sleeping so deeply. A burly man with a mustache angrily commands him to exit the wagon, calling him worthless. As he is pushed out, he's startled to hear a high-pitched, childish voice come from him. Falling to the ground, he initially believes it's a dream, still convinced he was in the office restroom. He stares at his hand in disbelief, shocked by its smallness and unfamiliarity. Landing painfully in the dirt, he looks up with the wide, innocent gaze of a young boy. The horrifying truth hits him hard. He's been transformed into a child. A woman in the wagon looks down at him, calling him a nuisance and noting their behind schedule. Sitting on the ground, he struggles to grasp the bizarre and frightening reality he faces. He scans the rustic camp, realizing this dream feels far too real to be fake. Rising to his feet, he examines his small, childlike form, questioning what has happened. A hand extends a bowl of simple porridge, announcing that it's time to eat. Clutching his head in despair, he wishes fervently to awaken from this nightmare. The woman who offered him food regards him with a cold, indifferent stare. She chillingly states that he missed a chance for an easy death. When he questions her, she tells him to eat so he can attract a buyer. He urgently asks where the wagon is headed, desperate for any information. The woman is taken aback that he doesn't know his own destination. With wide-eyed shock, he learns they are headed to the royal capital. A sweeping view reveals the massive fortified city and its grand, imposing castle. He finds himself lined up with other captives at the grim and foreboding slave market. An auctioneer enthusiastically announces the start of the slave auction to the crowd. On the auction block, he is presented as Lot Number 1, a 6-year-old boy with bids starting at 1,000 G. He overhears potential buyers dismissing him, saying he'll be discarded if he doesn't sell. The murmuring crowd's bids slowly rise, hitting 800 and then 900. He reflects on his grim fate, being sold as a slave in this entirely unfamiliar world. In the crowd, an elegant elderly woman and a stern man watch the auction proceedings closely. The bidding price drops to 500, and he watches in wide-eyed despair. The noble-looking pair in the crowd exchange a serious, knowing glance. The auctioneer calls for any last bids, but the crowd remains silent. His auction concludes without ceremony, and he's stunned by how swiftly his fate was decided. Just as he's being led away, a man steps from a doorway, halting his exit. The man presents him to his new owners, stating that this is the product they ordered. The man formally addresses the new owners as Bartholomew Sama. The elderly woman and the stern man, now his masters, regard him with calm expressions. He recognizes them as the same individuals he noticed in the auction crowd. The auctioneer announces the formal process of transferring ownership will now begin. The boy watches in confusion as the auctioneer instructs him to follow the procedure. The elderly woman extends her gloved hand, gently requesting his. He hesitantly reaches out with his shackled hand, uncertain of their intentions. A brilliant magical light bursts from his hand as the ownership contract is established. The serious Falco sharply instructs him to keep quiet during the magical ritual. The boy and his new mistress observe as a brilliant light envelops his hand. His heavy shackles break apart, leaving him to wonder if this is real magic. The auctioneer departs, his dealings with them now finished. Falco inquires what name should be assigned to their newly acquired slave. The boy has given him the name Lenos. The trio stands together, with the newly named Linos cautiously eyeing his masters. The elderly woman introduces herself as Elsa von Bartholomew, his new mistress. Falco is introduced as they prepare to leave in a carriage. Falco smirks slightly, patting Linus's head, commenting on his toughness. By a stone well, Falco gazes down, lost in thought. Suddenly, he splashes a bucket of water over Linos, catching him off guard. Linus gasps in surprise as Falco commands him to remain still. Falco whispers an incantation, his hand glowing with a gentle magical light. Translucent magical bubbles swirl around Linos, instantly washing away the dirt. Lino exclaims how clean he feels, while Falco casually mentions it's simple magic. The boy is amazed to confirm that magic truly exists in this new realm. Falco's demeanor suddenly shifts to fury, leaving Lino utterly shocked. He angrily demands to know what backwater place Linos hails from. Falco seizes him, questioning if he truly doesn't recognize his own abilities. He reveals that Lenos has the rare and potent skill of a barrier master. Falco explains he used appraisal magic at the market to uncover this talent. He elaborates on the Bartholomew family's pressing need for a barrier master. Falco dismisses Lino as just a chick, still an egg in terms of potential. When asked about his magic, Falco evasively claims his appraisal ability is infallible. Linus listens closely, thinking Falco's assertion seems far from a joke. Falco leads the way, announcing they are now heading to the family mansion. He points out the massive Jenga castle, highlighting its agricultural self-sufficiency. A brief scene shows people joyfully harvesting fruit within the castle's protective walls. Lino follows, pondering the harsh treatment of slaves despite his master's kindness. Falco turns to him, declaring they have finally reached their destination. Lino gazes in wonder at the grand and impressive Bartholomew family estate. Falco directs him to the back entrance, explaining it's for the servants. Linus follows, relieved to have finally reached the end of their long journey. He suddenly feels a jolt from an unseen force, crying out in pain. Elsa's voice scolds Falco for carelessly leading him into the intruder-repelling barrier. Inside, the household staff, led by a stern, stout woman, inspects the newcomer. The head maid, Warza, is introduced as Elsa explains Linos will be raised in the house. Warza leans in closely, noting he seems like a good kid, and encouraging him to do his best. Her intense closeness and cheerful demeanor are comically intimidating to the small boy. Falco, lying on the ground, worries if Linos is okay after the rough treatment. Where is the kind Leonos? Has he had a chance to eat yet? She decides to take him to the dining hall for a meal while giving him a tour. Falco encouragingly pats his head, telling him to eat well for their training tomorrow. Linos looks up with wide, innocent eyes, absorbing his new environment. A warm, simple meal of fresh bread, eggs, and greens is served to him. Warza asks if there's anything he dislikes as he hesitantly holds a piece of bread. He wonders if it's truly acceptable for him, a slave, to receive such kindness. Warza smiles knowingly, commenting that the Bartholomews are a cruel yet strange family. She tells him he is the egg of a barrier master as she guides him up the grand staircase. At the dining table, Lino doubts he can finish his hefty meal, but Waraza encourages him to eat heartily and grow strong. Waraza assures him she'll show him to his room once he's done, and he gratefully prepares to dig in. She leads him up an impressive staircase, instructing Lino to memorize the mansion's layout, which he agrees to do. During the tour, she mentions that the first floor has guest rooms, while Elsa Sama's room is on the second. Lino feels touched by her thoroughness, noting that his own room is situated in the servants' quarters. She kindly suggests he could share a room with her son Walsa, and Lino seems to accept the idea. Out of nowhere, her son Walsa explodes in anger, insisting he won't share a room with a brat like Lino. After the outburst, Waraza takes Lino to his own private room, explaining it's a bit messy from lack of use. She cheerfully suggests they tidy it up together, handing him a brush, and he gratefully agrees to help. As they clean, she outlines his responsibilities, which include assisting her and using his minor magic for various tasks. She explains his schedule will be rigorous, with set meal times and wake-up calls, but he will have days off. With a supportive smile, she adds that his magic training will be part of his duties, encouraging him to give it his all. Alone in his new room, Lino feels overwhelmed by everything that has transpired, unsure how to process it. A sudden wave of anxiety washes over him as he remembers the unfinished project from his previous life. The worries from his old world resurface, leaving him staring blankly at the stillness of the room. He grimaces, questioning if he's still just a corporate slave at heart, even in this new world. Looking out the window, he wonders if he can ever return, and if going back would even bring him joy. Overwhelmed by anxiety, he decides to stop thinking and burrows under his covers to sleep. The next day, his master Falco starts the training by instructing him to focus on forming an image. He is told to become aware of the blood coursing through his veins and to feel the warmth within. As he concentrates, a shimmering barrier begins to form around him, and his eyes widen in surprise. His eyes widen in awe as he questions the strange magical phenomenon unfolding around him. He exclaims in wonder that a mottled barrier has appeared, but Falco sharply tells him to focus. A look of pure astonishment crosses his face as he realizes he has successfully cast magic. Falco yells in frustration, reminding him once more to keep his focus. Falco explains that a barrier master is a rare role that requires constant protection of one's superiors. With a thumbs up, Falco states that while it's important, it's a rather plain and unglamorous job. He emphasizes the need for immense mental fortitude and explains that rapid growth is crucial for battle. A grim vision of fallen comrades flashes as Falco warns that a mistake in battle can lead to death. The mention of death shocks Lino, and Falco acknowledges the boy's youth, noting the harshness of this world. Suddenly laughing, Falco reassures him, declaring that the great mage Falco himself will teach him personally. Caught off guard by the sudden change in tone, Lino eagerly agrees to the training. To the boy's surprise, Falco immediately announces they will start a defensive trial right away. Recognizing that a full sphere is too challenging, he instructs Lino to create a fan-shaped barrier in front of him. As Lino manifests the shield, Falco nods in approval and tells him to maintain its form. Focusing on the shield, Lino feels he's starting to grasp how to control the magic. His eyes are set and determined as he successfully holds the translucent magical shield. With a wild grin, Falco unleashes a massive magical blast, challenging Lino to block the attack. With a terrified smile, Lino thinks to himself that blocking this attack seems utterly impossible. A massive explosion rocks the snowy mountains, showcasing the sheer power of Falco's attack. That evening, as they walk back to the mansion, a panting Falco remarks that they somehow survived the day. Lino, looking worn out, mentions he learned recovery magic, and Falco gruffly thanks him for his hard work. At the gate, Falco announces he's heading to the tavern and tells Lino to go on ahead. Thinking he's hungry, his thoughts are interrupted by someone yelling at him, calling him worthless. A brutish young man, Walsa, viciously kicks him from behind, sending him crashing onto the stone steps. Walsa grabs him by the collar, angrily reminding him of his order not to return until his chores were finished. The frightened boy apologizes, but Walsa berates him for his insolence, reminding him of his status as a slave. Trembling in fear, Lino stammers out another apology for his supposed mistake. As Walsa continues his cruel tirade, no one nearby makes a move to intervene. The other servants merely watch the brutal bullying, their inaction revealing much about the house's hierarchy. A chilling truth strikes him. This harsh treatment is routine, and he might have stayed out of it too. The grand mansion looms quietly beneath a frigid snowy sky, mirroring the boy's inner conflict. As he strolls through the corridors, a heavy anxiety settles in despite his attempts to calm himself. He stands forlorn in a vacant hallway, the burden of his new reality weighing heavily on him. Waraza, the head maid, discovers him, her face brightening as she greets him cheerfully after training. She delivers a message from Elsa-sama, summoning him to her room once he completes his tasks. Gently patting his head, she informs him that dinner is nearly ready and to finish his chores in the dining hall. As she departs, he touches the spot where she patted him, confusion and sadness etched on his face. Later, Elsa hands him a box, explaining that the formal attire inside is a gift meant for him. He gazes at the exquisite clothing in disbelief, questioning if such a fine suit is really for him. Elsa and her husband beam at him, encouraging the astonished boy to try it on. With a warm and proud smile, Elsa urges the newly dressed Lino to embrace the gift. Then she makes a breathtaking announcement, declaring that he is now part of their family. The phrase, "part of the family," hits him hard, leaving him utterly speechless. Overwhelmed with gratitude, he places a hand on his chest, thanking her profusely for her incredible kindness. Seated comfortably, she compliments how the suit looks on him as he resolves to be of service. In the lively kitchen, the maids gather around, exclaiming how well the new suit suits him. Feeling a bit overwhelmed, he helps carry a large stack of plates for the upcoming dinner. The kitchen buzzes with cheerful activity as the maids prepare the evening feast. A maid's gossip about a foreign prince catches him off guard, nearly making him drop a large salad bowl. During dinner, he discovers that the master of the house is a trusted advisor to the crown prince, a point of great pride. A maid explains to the newcomer that Elsa-sama had once tutored the master, Olin. She elaborates that Olin serves as the reliable right-hand man to the crown prince. Beaming with pride, one maid declares that their family's deep trust with the crown prince is their greatest honor. A stern-faced man chastises the gossiping maids for their thoughtless chatter. He points out two imposing figures, General Kalji and his brother, warning that rudeness would be inappropriate. Feeling overwhelmed, Linus realizes that as a bodyguard, he must be aware of these influential figures. The head maid, Wuraza, listens to the conversation with a knowing and contemplative expression. He inquires about a significant guest, and the maids cryptically mention that the person is arriving today. Muraza's expression shifts to one of shock as she seems to realize the guest has arrived. An armored boot comes into view as a maid reassures him that the head butler is managing the arrival. Lenos watches, his face a mix of confusion and anticipation for the important guest. As a long-haired blonde woman appears, he asks who she is. The head butler formally welcomes the newcomer home, addressing her as, with a radiant smile, Errol rushes in, joyfully announcing to her grandmother that she has returned. Elsa expresses her joy, and Errol explains she was so eager to see them that she flew back. Stunned, Lenaz wonders aloud if the young lady has already completed her sword training. A memory surfaces of a younger Errol being sent to train as a swordmaster after a painful divorce. Now brimming with confidence, Errol declares she will be the one to protect her grandmother from now on. She adds that with Falco also present, the family's defenses will become even more formidable. Elsa gazes at her granddaughter with concern, softly murmuring Errol's name. Her sharp gaze shifts to Linos, mockingly questioning if he's just some unemployed person Falco found. Linos feels flustered by her sudden and aggressive questioning, unsure how to reply. She points a finger at him, identifying him as the boy Falco has been training. Her eyes narrow as she asserts that magic alone won't suffice to protect anyone in this era. She points directly at him, declaring that she, a swordmaster, will personally assist with his training. With a fierce grin, she vows to train him with lethal intent, instructing him to follow her lead. Overwhelmed by her intensity, tears well in his eyes as he stammers a yes to her daunting offer. After a training session, she expresses disappointment that he is only a tenth of her strength, and he thinks she's a monster. Falco observes as the exhausted Linos pleads for Errol to take it easy on him, but she remains slightly disappointed. A stunning woman with feline ears gasps in disbelief, understanding she's only a fraction of her opponent's power. The rugged Falco jokingly proposes they incorporate his magic into the fight, but she retorts it would be fatal for her. With a broad smile, he reminds her of her own claim about training to kill. A chaotic memory flashes, revealing a frightened young Linus as Falco and Errol tower over him, brimming with wild energy. In the recollection, Lino clutches a book in terror while the formidable Falco looms nearby. The memory shifts, showing the young boy joyfully laughing alongside two cheerful maids. Another training memory surfaces, depicting a younger Lino fiercely sparring with Errol. A sharp diagonal line propels the scene forward in time. 4 years later, the distinguished Balsam von Alden expresses gratitude to a poised Arrow for her visit. A butler serves tea to the matriarch, who notes the need for secrecy in meeting him. Balsam then inquires about the latest developments at the mansion from the matriarch. He chuckles, teasing her for sounding like she's spreading gossip. The matriarch smiles gently, stating she has a very trustworthy source of information. Outside the grand estate, Lino unleashes a powerful Kai, fully immersed in his training. From a high balcony, Lord Balsam and the matriarch watch the training session unfold below. Lino swings his massive sword down, and Falco catches the heavy blade on his forearm. Arrow emits a fierce battle cry as she leaps into the training match. She soars through the air, delivering a powerful arcing kick aimed directly at Linus. With remarkable composure, Lino pivots and deflects her strike with the flat of his sword. Aurel clicks her tongue in annoyance, frustrated at being so easily countered. She lands gracefully, but complains that she was just getting warmed up. A gloved hand rises, and Falco's voice commands them to halt the sparring. Falco reprimands Errol for interrupting, stating it's hard to train with her interference. Lino, breathing steadily after the exchange, respectfully addresses Falco as his master. Falco acknowledges that Linus's magical abilities have significantly improved since he arrived. He gazes at his student thoughtfully and declares it's time for his graduation exam. Linos is taken aback, questioning if he is truly prepared to graduate already. Falco reassures him that his barrier magic is more than adequate, even for the royal palace. He assigns Lenos the daunting task of venturing alone into Lunoa Forest to hunt a monster. A map highlights the location of the expansive Lunoa Forest, situated northeast of the Juka Kingdom. Falco grants Lino 3 days to prepare for his journey, and the boy agrees. Deep within the forest, Linos questions why Errol is accompanying him. She explains she's his bodyguard. Her eyes gleam with excitement as she declares her intent to hunt something big. She eagerly urges a slightly confused Lino to hurry up. Walking ahead, she complains about feeling restless and wanting to slash something soon. Linos observes that the forest is unnaturally quiet, with no creatures in sight. Errol suddenly realizes the silence stems from her own murderous aura, scaring everything away. A dark, oppressive energy envelops the area, causing Lino's eyes to widen in fear. A monstrous casserole bursts forth from the trees, and Lina screams its name in panic. The colossal beast charges ahead, and the two adventurers brace themselves for the onslaught. Linus and Ariel shout the monster's name in unison as they confront the fearsome creature. Ariel finds herself ensnared by the beast's magic, realizing its height is too thick to penetrate. She grits her teeth, vowing not to be underestimated, and prepares to escape. She leaps into the air, delivering a desperate, powerful strike with her sword. Her blade clangs harmlessly against the monster's magically shielded hide. A close-up reveals the futile impact of her attack against the beast's tough exterior. She curses in frustration, realizing the creature is simply too resilient for her strikes. After being thrown back, she urgently tells Lenos to flee, insisting he can't win. She grabs his cloak, physically trying to push him toward safety. Lino stands firm, telling her not to worry about him. With determination in his eyes, he states there's one thing he wants to attempt. He lifts his hands, summoning a vast, glowing circle of magic that surrounds the fearsome creature. Arel questions whether his strategy is merely to bind the beast and escape. Lannis gestures to his lips, revealing his actual plan to eliminate the air within the barrier. Errol stands in utter disbelief, speechless at the brilliance of his unconventional tactic. The ensnared monster realizes it's being overpowered by a method other than the sorter spell. The gigantic beast starts to choke and wheeze, collapsing onto the ground. Exhausted, Lino kneels in relief, whispering that he has succeeded. Errol approaches with a genuine smile, admiring his incredible magical prowess. Linus gazes up at her, his face lit with a radiant smile, expressing his gratitude. With the creature vanquished, they now confront the challenge of transporting the enormous carcass. Errol smirks, a knowing chuckle escaping her lips as an idea strikes her. She reveals a small, ornate pouch, declaring it to be the solution. Lino's eyes fall on the tiny bag in her hand, asking what it is. She clarifies that it's a magical storage pouch, a family heirloom that can hold items based on the user's magic. Lino accepts the pouch, astonished yet understanding, promising to safeguard the treasure. Errol instructs him to recite the appropriate chant to activate the pouch's magic. With a spectacular rush of energy, the massive monster is drawn into the small pouch. Arrow confirms it's securely stored and explains how to retrieve it later. She cheerfully suggests they feast on the delicious kasharili meat, but Leno protests about eating the hide. She clarifies that they will first remove the hide, prompting a disgusted expression from him. She then proposes they gather ingredients on their way back to the estate. Lennis observes her, a thoughtful and slightly surprised look crossing his face. Ariel excitedly points out appetizing mushrooms and various wild vegetables in the woods. Leno comments that he never realized she had such an interest in food. A memory surfaces of a maid explaining that meals in the mansion are prepared for them. Errol shares that after years of strict training meals, she now finds great joy in selecting her food. She eagerly suggests that their next special training should involve another forging trip. So excited, she nearly forgets they need to return to their waiting master. Upon their arrival, Falco stares in sheer disbelief at the enormous Kosher-Lek Harkus. He inquires if Errol assisted, but she proudly clarifies that Linos suffocated it with a barrier all by himself. Falco regards his student with admiration for his cleverness, and Linos expresses his gratitude. With a proud grin, Falco pats Linos on the head, declaring he has passed the graduation exam. The matriarch and Lord Balsam welcome them, congratulating them on their hard work and safe return. Leno Seneral formally announces their successful return to their master. Errol excitedly informs the matriarch that the monster meat is delicious and should be prepared for dinner. She laughs with pure, unfiltered joy while Lino watches, still a bit overwhelmed by the accolades. The matriarch's expression softens as she directly addresses Linos by name. Lenos looks up at her, respectfully responding to her call. She tells him she must express her gratitude, but he insists he hasn't done anything to earn it. The matriarch closes her eyes, a gentle knowing smile gracing her lips. She explains that since his arrival, Errol has begun to show truly wonderful, genuine smiles. She states that she is the one who should be grateful for everything he has done for her granddaughter. A vision reveals a younger, sadder Errol as the matriarch wishes for her happiness from the depths of her heart. A snowy mountain landscape appears as the matriarch claims that she and Lino are alike. She reassures him that he is now an essential part of their family and should voice any troubles. Linus gazes up, his eyes wide with astonishment and a growing sense of belonging. Lord Balsam expresses his hope that Linus will continue to offer his assistance in the future. Overwhelmed with emotion, Lena clutches his heart and gives a heartfelt affirmative response. He reflects on how incredibly fortunate he is to be cherished by such kind-hearted individuals. A refined man with light hair breathes a sigh of relief upon hearing that Errol is safe. In a broader context, he converses with an elderly woman, confessing his feelings of guilt. His hand rests on the desk as he articulates his profound remorse. A flashback reveals a heartbroken Errol, tears streaming, trapped in a forced marriage by royal command. The elderly woman reminisces sadly about how even the staff feared the transformed Errol. Reflecting on the past, Errol's once vibrant expression is now overshadowed by sorrow. The memory is so agonizing that the elderly woman covers her mouth in despair. A joyful memory surfaces, showing Errol and another man playfully training a flustered young Linos. Returning to the present, the man inquires about the young barrier master, Linus. The elderly woman beams, confirming that Linos possesses remarkable talent and skill. She shares that it was Linos who enabled her to reassign the head butler, Waden. The man listens attentively, stroking his chin as he processes this new insight. She recalls a gathering where Errol awkwardly avoided mingling with the other nobles. The atmosphere was charged, as her refusal could tarnish the family's reputation. Unfamiliar with such tension, Errol was rescued by a small mishap orchestrated by Lienus. The man listens closely, his expression serious and contemplative. The flashback depicts Linos being lauded by Errol and the surrounding nobles for his quick wit. The other nobles are impressed by how Errol managed the situation, all thanks to Linos. The man, taken aback, asks if this old tale of cleverness is indeed true. The elderly woman chuckles, revealing with a mischievous grin that he played a part. He reacts in disbelief, his mouth agape at this surprising revelation. A younger Lino humbly acknowledges that he was merely following her guidance. The man bursts into hearty laughter, charmed by the boy's cleverness and resourcefulness. Recognizing Linus's value, he insists they must properly express their gratitude to the boy. The elderly woman smiles, assuring him she will see them off, promising happiness for all. He instructs his attendant Wade to prepare, who bows in acknowledgement. The man reclines in his chair, a look of satisfaction and contemplation on his face. Staring out the window, he ponders Linos's bright future with their family. A long, slender panel transitions to the next scene. Against a mountainous backdrop, a cheerful armored figure calls for Linos to join her in the forest. Lino turns, a joyful smile lighting up his face as he agrees. Now 12, Linos eagerly responds, ready for their adventure. Years later, Lino groans in his sleep, his hand reaching out as if in distress. He awakens to find Arrow playfully holding him tightly in bed. She muses about how much she enjoys setting these little traps for him each morning. He protests, claiming he isn't enjoying this delightful predicament at all. Arrow wonders what others would think if they saw them, insisting she isn't teasing him. Now dressed, Lino still feels flustered as a yawning Arrow stretches behind him. A maid appears at the door, announcing that the master is summoning Linos. Errol yawns widely, urging Linos to head there immediately. She instructs Lino to enter the room where the master awaits. The maid smiles, assuring Errol she will handle the other arrangements. As Lino enters, he is taken aback to see a handsome blonde man with his entourage. A stern man with a beard recognizes the visitor, identifying him as the crown prince. Lenos gasps in shock, his eyes wide as he realizes royalty is in the room. He bows deeply, apologizing for his casual attire, but the prince reassures him. The prince notes that Linus is typically summoned at night, questioning his presence now. Linos looks up, stammering a reply, still in awe of the prince. The prince announces his upcoming inauguration and requests Linos' assistance. Linus offers heartfelt congratulations, bowing deeply before the prince. He anxiously ponders what the crown prince could want from him. The prince issues his command. Linos must capture 100 golden birds for the feast. Linus solemnly repeats the legendary golden bird's name. These birds are known to be skittish, swift, and nearly impossible to catch. The old woman reveals she summoned Lena to demonstrate his talent to the prince. The prince observes that Linos must have heard of the birds before. One man voices skepticism, questioning if even a master craftsman could pull it off. Another suggests he could just incinerate the entire forest with his magic. The prince turns to Linos, inquiring if he feels capable of the task. Errol suddenly jumps onto Linus's back, assuring the prince they've got this. The prince chuckles, entertained by her bold confidence. Errol reveals a magical pouch from the Balsam family to keep the birds fresh. The elderly woman teasingly tells the prince to call her Elsa, his mentor. Linos feels the heavy burden, realizing he can't turn down the request. The prince sets a 2-week deadline, asking if he can achieve this. Linos pauses, the enormity of the task weighing heavily on him. He resolves to assist the prince, pledging his all to the mission. The prince commends him for his reliability, while Linos reflects on his true age. Now in the woods, Linos surveys his surroundings, starting the challenging quest. He readies his gear, admitting he has no clue how to catch the birds. The elderly woman gives him a family heirloom, the God's Eye mirror, for assistance. She hopes this powerful artifact will prove useful for the tough task ahead. With a renewed resolve, Linos sets off, his friend humorously covering her ears. Riding alongside Errol, he sighs, feeling flustered by her presence. She teasingly asks why he looks so troubled while sitting on her horse. He thinks that having such a strong ally should be beneficial. Errol blushes slightly, wondering if he plans to eat the golden birds. She inquires if he has spotted the birds yet, to which he replies affirmatively. He explains he's using detection magic, but the flock remains extremely cautious. As night approaches, he decides to set up one of his signature protective barriers. Kneeling beside her horse, Arel vows to succeed for the matriarch's sake. Linos by the fire agrees, promising to succeed for the prince's honor. They relax by the fire, a magical aura swirling around Errol's sleeping figure. Liena's eyes snap open, his detection magic flaring to life unexpectedly. He alerts a startled Errol that his magic has detected the golden birds nearby. He exclaims with excitement that the flock is very close. Errol urges him to go, and he agrees, ready to spring into action. They navigate through the woods. Ariel's surprised they found the birds on day one. Linus cautions them as they near, spotting the flock ahead. He peers through the God's Eye mirror, his focus sharpening. He has located them, a large group of birds resting high in a tree. They devise a strategy, concerned that a wide-range barrier might trap other creatures. A single stunning white bird with a feathered crest sits on a branch. One of the golden birds approaches, drawn to something below. Errol frets about harming them, but Linus points out that blood would alert the others. He devises a plan to capture them without causing harm or raising an alarm. To buy some time, he decides to toss out some bait. Errol asks what he threw, and he explains it's fruit. A golden bird eagerly consumes the fruit, a primary food source. Errol comments on how delicious it looks as it eats, while Linus formulates an idea. With his target in view, Lino decides he has no other option. The stunning white bird suddenly becomes engulfed in a magical whirlwind. He acknowledges that this is an impulsive idea with uncertain results. His friend Errol inquires if he intends to suffocate it like the Kesharoli. He shares his unconventional strategy to make the barrier's environment inviting. Linos believes that if the bird feels safe, it won't alert its friends. While Errol doubts its feasibility, he concentrates on changing the temperature and aroma. Initially, the bird appears puzzled, causing Errol to worry it might be in pain. Then its face transforms into one of sheer joy as it happily lolls its tongue. Linus observes closely, his eyes widening as he realizes his bizarre plan is succeeding. The magnificent bird rests serenely on the ground, lulled into a deep magical sleep. Thrilled by his achievement, Errol wraps her arms around him in a joyful hug. He's taken aback by her sudden enthusiastic embrace, his expression one of shock. She proudly reveals that she used the first bird's call to attract and mesmerize the others. They stand in wonder before a clearing, now filled with dozens of slumbering birds. As Lena prepares to collect their prize, Errol abruptly halts him with a sharp order. Her eyes gleaming with desire, she insists they must first perform a vital taste test. Linus watches, slightly surprised by her sudden and intense craving for food. With practiced precision, she swiftly drains the bird's blood in one clean motion. She quickly plucks its feathers, getting the carcass ready for their spontaneous feast. Next, she skillfully guts the bird, her movements efficient and surprisingly brutal. Linus admires her impressive butchering skills with a sense of quiet respect. He requests her to heat the frying pan he packed in his luggage. As the meat sizzles, she admits the smell is already making her mouth water. Two thick, glistening pieces of meat brown perfectly in the pan, looking incredibly appetizing. With their mouths watering, they agree the meat is nearly ready to eat. They both take a big, eager bite of the freshly cooked bird meat. Their eyes widen together, reflecting pure shock and delight. After a brief moment of stunned silence, they both exclaim how unbelievably delicious it is. They rave about the incredible taste, astonished it's so good with just basic seasoning. Leaning back, completely satisfied, they revel in the afterglow of their fantastic meal. Errol nostalgically wishes her great-aunt and the others could have savored the magnificent bird. Lino smiles, assuring her they have plenty of leftovers to share with everyone. As they trek back through the mountains, she wonders if their master will be pleased. He confidently responds that he is absolutely sure their master will be thrilled. Upon their return, they are greeted by Warsaw and other maids with joyful enthusiasm. The entire household staff gathers around, warmly welcoming them back from their successful hunt. Later, Linus, now dressed as a butler, formally serves tea to his master. He pours a cup for the matriarch of the house, whom he refers to as Falco. He reports on the successful capture of the golden bird, and she expresses her gratitude. She informs him that the dinner party went well and offers him a reward. He insists he is merely a servant, but she claims he has truly earned it. She admits that asking him to procure the substitute Falco was an unreasonable request. Linos is taken aback by her words, stammering his thanks for her generosity. She hands him a heavy cloth-wrapped bundle as compensation for his hard work. His eyes widen in disbelief as he sees the bag filled with gold coins. A nobleman explains it is the master's order to give him all the funds. Lino protests that he cannot possibly accept such a vast amount of money. The attendant, Elsa, clarifies that they plan to free him from servitude upon their deaths. Lenos listens in shock as he learns of their long-held intentions for his future. The matriarch mentions that both she and the master are aging and time is not on their side. She urges him to take it, recalling his past wish to break free and support himself. Filled with gratitude, he grips the bag tightly, thanking them repeatedly for their generosity. The matriarch inquires if he will accept, and he quietly nods, still in a daze. Arel shows up with the household staff, commenting on the kindness of everyone in the home. Lino excitedly tells her he can't wait to share this with his master. She then asks if his master has come back yet, but he hasn't. A brief silence hangs between them, with Lena gazing at her expectantly. A man with a colossal dragon bellows that they can't return without a replacement item. Later, Lino stands outside an impressive building, checking a clipboard. The head maid, Warasa, spots him wandering at night and calls out to him. She cheerfully invites him to follow her, saying there's a place he needs to be. To his astonishment, he finds himself at the heart of a massive surprise celebration. He sits in an elaborate throne-like chair, utterly confused by the festivities. He asks his friends what's going on, struggling to grasp the extravagant scene. He wonders if such a grand celebration is a customary rite of passage here. Flustered, he questions whether it's truly acceptable for them to honor him so lavishly. He gazes in disbelief at the splendid feast laid out before him. Errol reveals that Wursa has been eagerly planning this surprise for months. An older man with a beard comments on how quickly he has matured into adulthood. Linos listens, a slight blush creeping onto his cheeks, still processing the attention. A woman fondly reminisces about how small and shy he was when he first arrived. She recalls his timid yet reliable nature as a child. A close-up reveals a small, endearing creature he once was in her memories. With a gentle smile, Linos hands his handkerchief to the emotional Warasa. Overwhelmed with joy, she bursts into tears at his thoughtful and polite gesture. She is moved that he has grown into such a remarkable young man. The bearded man pats his head, again noting his impressive growth. The entire group watches warmly, proud of the man he has become. Arrow observes with a nostalgic smile, recalling his tough training days. A calm voice cuts through the chatter, asking if the boy is Lino's. Lino turns to see the lord of the house, his grand uncle, standing before him. He is so taken aback that he nearly drops the plate of food he holds. The partygoers are equally shocked by the lord's sudden appearance. Linus feels flustered, unsure how to properly greet such an esteemed figure. The lord mentions he has heard much about Lenos from Elsa and Errol. The two women smile, affirming the lord's words with their expressions. He apologizes for not visiting sooner, thanking Lino for safeguarding the house. With a warm smile, he extends his heartfelt congratulations on Lino's coming of age. Touched by his kindness, Linus thinks he resembles Elsa and stammers his gratitude. The lord asks if he has met the matriarch yet, but Linos hasn't. He excuses himself, encouraging everyone to relax and enjoy the festivities. Lino confides in Errol about his surprise, and she nods in agreement with a smile. He tells her he now understands why the lord is cherished by all. Errol muses that he always sends letters, wondering if something has occurred. She jokingly speculates if his sudden, dreadful return was a surprise for her. The lord converses with the matriarch, apologizing for his unexpected arrival. She asks if he plans to return to the castle soon, and he replies not yet. He explains he will be staying for 2 or 3 days, which she finds odd. Her expression shifts to concern as she inquires if something is amiss at the castle. In an opulent chamber, the lord outlines the castle's predicament, but the matriarch finds the tale vague. During a lively celebration, a maid urgently seeks out Linos, announcing that Elsa and Falco have called for him. Escorted by a retainer, Linos, Falco, and Errol apologize for delaying their host. The lord graciously points out that they are the ones interrupting the festivities. His demeanor shifts to serious as the lord discloses he has summoned them for a covert mission. He asks Errol and Falco to serve as official witnesses for the task he is about to assign. Before diving into serious matters, Matriarch Elsa hands Linus a document. Linos is taken aback to find it's a travel permit allowing him access to all city sectors. The lord confirms Linos can now roam freely in the city, much to the boy's excitement. A diagram displays the city's layout, categorized into noble, military, residential, commercial, and agricultural areas. Falco leans closer, a playful grin on his face, vowing to take Linos to his favorite shop. Linos envisions a raucous brothel filled with women, his face contorting in horror at the thought. Elsa, trying to suppress a laugh, quickly mentions that a strict curfew will be in place. The trio sweats nervously, accepting the terms of their newfound liberty with some anxiety. The lord declares it's time to get serious and discuss Linos' new role. With a solemn look, he officially names Linus a member of the Barsum family. He entrusts Linos with the significant duty of overseeing the family's magical treasury. Linos is astonished, realizing he must protect national treasures using his unique barrier skills. He stutters the name Plessia, questioning if he truly deserves such a monumental honor. Both the Lord and Elsa express their unwavering confidence, believing he is the right choice. Humboldt, Linos apologizes for his reaction and formally accepts the heavy responsibility. Elsa watches with a warm, understanding smile, assured in their decision to trust him. She clarifies that the method to unlock the vault is intricate, but reassures him he can manage it. Falco observes the exchange with a sly, confident smirk, aware of Linos' true capabilities. The Lord expresses gratitude to Linos for attending, stating that this wraps up their business. However, Errol senses there's more, asking her great-uncle if that's truly all he has to say. Linos, confused by her inquiry, thinks the Lord's words seem quite conclusive. The Lord then discloses the real reason for his return. A significant visitor is arriving tomorrow. Falco's expression hardens as he realizes the visitor must hold an extremely high rank. Errol's face drains of color, knowing they cannot refuse the request of the incoming guest. Linos wonders who this important guest, coming specifically to celebrate with him, could be. A view of the grand estate at night creates an atmosphere of quiet anticipation for the arrival. A striking blond man arrives, thanking Linos for his assistance during his recent inauguration. Linos and his friends bow low, the young man feeling the immense pressure of the moment. The visitor states that Linos is a benefactor to him, making this level of attention only fitting. He confirms that he is aware Linos has been appointed guardian of the family's treasury. Linos, still kneeling, affirms that he has also received the travel permit. The Lord and Elsa express their appreciation for the significant favor the visitor is granting them. The visitor assures Linos that his barrier magic skills have his personal official endorsement. Overwhelmed by the honor, Linos manages to convey his heartfelt gratitude. Falco and Errol watch, relieved that the influential visitor holds Linos in such high esteem. The Lord wonders if his own celebratory gift now seems insignificant by comparison. Elsa quickly reassures him that there's no way his gift could be seen as trivial. The visitor's armored boot steps forward, indicating that the conversation is far from over. He reveals that he has come today with another request for the Barsom house. He demands that Linos be freed from his servitude and formally adopted into the family. Linos and his companions are utterly shocked, gazing up at the visitor in disbelief. Though he had heard of Linos's excellence, the notion of freeing him from servitude is astonishing. The visitor explains he wishes to utilize Linos's high potential for the benefit of the nation. He intends for Linos to serve directly under him as a royal court barrier mage. Linos is stunned by the boldness and intensity of the demand. Falco politely requests time to confer with Linos and his spouse. Linos feels completely overwhelmed, his thoughts a chaotic whirlwind from recent events. The visitor agrees to their request for time, expecting a positive reply before he leaves. In a dim, silent corridor, a servant discreetly acknowledges his presence to an unseen figure. The servant informs that His Highness has returned from his travels. He continues detailing the situation concerning the barrier mage. The nobleman reflects that Linus will soon oversee the Barsom family treasury. With a chilling certainty, he states that the time to eliminate them will come. 2 years later, Linus contemplates being invited to serve as a royal court barrier mage. He confesses he never anticipated the preparations would take years. Elsa beams, explaining that the royal court is filled with intricate etiquettes and manners to master. She emphasizes to Linos that this is crucial for his future. Linos Sassif's current circumstances are also part of these vital preparations. Elsa asserts that in the royal court, appearance is paramount. She reassures him not to fret about his skills as a barrier mage. They aren't the main focus. To thrive, he must first earn the trust of various political factions. The weight of this revelation causes Linos a severe stomachache. Elsa inquires how he believes the court assesses those they don't yet trust. He speculates it's based on their family crest, which she confirms is part of the criteria. She adds that their wealth, reflected in their attire, also plays a role. If he lacks trust, his efforts will be hindered, leaving him isolated. Elsa earnestly grips him, expressing her desire to prevent that fate for him as family. She clarifies that the fine garments he wears are essential for establishing that trust. She encourages him to take pride in the name His Highness restored for him, Dark Lanos. With a warm, supportive smile, she shares that she is praying for his success. Resolute and determined, Lino accepts her advice with a heartfelt affirmation. The serious atmosphere is interrupted by Errol, who cheerfully requests to borrow Lino for an outing. Elsa gives her approval, reminding her to take care of the packages. Errol excitedly announces their destination, the commercial district, to carry their items. As they stroll through the lively market, Arrow comments on the new and rare goods available. She asks what he intends to buy, dismissing his suggestions of food or clothing. She knows that since his time at the palace, he has seldom returned home. She declares this outing a pre-celebration and promises to buy him a gift. She encourages him to request anything he desires, as such chances are rare. He explains that before arriving, he already possessed nearly everything he could wish for. A flashback reveals a comfortable life filled with warm meals, clean clothes, and friendly faces. He admits with a grin that he feels so fortunate, he sometimes forgets he's a slave. His indecision frustrates Errol, who demands to know what she should get for him. Startled, Linus's gaze suddenly fixates on a specific item at a nearby stall. The cheerful shopkeeper presents a bag of small, reddish-brown beans. He eagerly approaches the stall as the shopkeeper greets him warmly. He inquires about the red beans, and the shopkeeper explains they are called zuki. She shares that they taste delightful when boiled sweet, triggering a fond memory for Lino. The shopkeeper is impressed that he knows how to prepare the sweet paste. She suggests trying it with butter and cream, an idea that excites Arrow immensely. Errol exclaims with joy that this is perfect. This will be his celebratory gift. She turns to him with a bright, cheerful smile, asking what's bothering him. She laments that their errand has concluded, but proposes they search for other essentials. She then asks when he plans to leave, and he confirms his departure is in 2 months. In a serene moment, a voice reflects on how swiftly time has flown as a hand seals a tiny bottle. Lino beams, admitting he was somewhat taken aback by the recent developments. He ponders if being officially adopted by the Barsom family will alter his relationship with Errol. With a playful smirk, Errol challenges him to try calling her by her first name. Linus is utterly taken aback by her bold suggestion, letting out a gasp of shock. He stutters, insisting he could never be so impolite as to address a noble woman by her first name. She brushes off his worries, assuring him it's perfectly fine and he should start practicing immediately. He notes that their outing has somehow morphed into a shopping spree for her, but she insists it's all right. Arrow steps out from behind a curtain adorned in a lovely, frilly white dress, asking for Lino's opinion. He tells her the dress suits her beautifully. She and another woman showcase more outfits, a winter coat and a sleek black dress, seeking his feedback. Lino smiles, telling her she looks stunning in everything she tries on. She playfully mocks him for his flattering words when she sees his embarrassed expression. With a teasing glance, she warns him that with that attitude, finding a girlfriend will be tough. Her teasing hits home, leaving him flustered and sweating. As they stroll through the market, he laments not being able to buy her any of the clothes they admired. She concedes that while all the items were adorable, nothing truly caught her eye. He questions if her standards are simply too high, and she affirms that few things meet her expectations. He watches her, a contemplative and slightly troubled look crossing his face. She turns to him, offering a small bag of Azuki beans as a gift, hoping he will accept it. He inquires if the item he found is a ribbon, explaining he noticed it while she was trying on clothes. He gently ties the black lace ribbon into her hair, hoping she will appreciate it. Errol lights up with joy, exclaiming her love for the ribbon and thanking him profusely. Overwhelmed by her delight, he stutters a thank you in return. She laughs, asking why he is the one expressing gratitude, but he can only say it's for no particular reason. A thunderous boom suddenly shatters the calm street, rattling the ground. Amid the turmoil, those in the crowd wonder if the terrifying sound was an explosion. Linus looks up in alarm, his eyes wide with disbelief. He shouts to Errol, pointing frantically at the sky. A massive horde of wyverns blots out the sky, flying in a menacing formation. Arrow watches them, a dreadful realization dawning as she notes their direction. Elsewhere, two men observe that the assault is aimed squarely at the royal palace. The advisor insists they must hurry, as the emperor is in peril. Linus races through the streets, despairing as he realizes the palace is too far to reach in time. In the midst of the panicked crowd, a solitary armored figure stands out, calmly surveying the chaos. As terrified citizens flee, the figure walks slowly and purposefully against the current. Linus feels a growing dread as he notices the unmoving figure is smiling. The man's smile becomes unsettling as he correctly identifies Lord Linos and Lady Arrow. He declares that their forces have taken over the royal palace and that they have been summoned. He introduces himself grandly as Duke Adwison, a staff officer of the Yucca Kingdom's military. Errol is horrified, feeling as if he has sparked a rebellion alongside General Calgi. Duke scoffs at the term rebellion, a condescending smirk plastered on his face. He frames their actions as a noble cause, a necessary step to guide the kingdom onto a righteous path. He bluntly states that he did not come to the city just to chat with them. The Duke announces he has received a firm order to escort Lord Linus to the palace. Linus is taken aback by the direct command, questioning what Duke means by this. Errol is equally stunned, wondering why they were specifically summoned. Duke's smile turns predatory as he reveals he has no orders to allow Arrow to live. The two are frozen in a moment of sheer disbelief and growing horror. Lino finds the man's insolent remarks and smug, unwavering smile utterly repulsive. He tightens his fist, suppressing a shiver of fear, reminding himself not to show weakness. He asserts that as a slave, his obligation is to safeguard his mistress as commanded. He insists that the Duke must realize he can only follow orders from his true masters. Duke simply nods, a confident and knowing expression on his face. He mocks them, pointing out that their master awaits them at the palace. He questions if, as a slave, Lena shouldn't be returning to her master's side, leaving them stunned. Lino demands Duke provide evidence that their master is indeed at the palace. Duke responds with a chillingly pleasant smile, saying, "Very well." With a sickening thud, a body lands heavily on the stone ground before them. Lino stares in shock and horror at the lifeless figure. The blonde knight accompanying them wears a grim and unreadable expression. Juke identifies the body as the renowned sorcerer Falco, who had been guarding the master. A scream of pure fury erupts from Errol as she charges at the unyielding blonde knight. Juke observes the ensuing battle with a detached smirk, clearly entertained. Errol's face contorts with desperate rage as she continues her relentless assault. She yells at the knight not to evade her frantic onslaught. Furiously, she commands the bastard to draw his sword and face her. The knight coolly sidesteps her, commenting that her attacks are wasteful and fueled by emotion. Lena calls out her name in alarm as the knight dismisses her as a mere loudmouth. Juke notes with smug satisfaction that a barrier has been raised. He looks down at the defeated Errol, expressing disappointment in her supposed sword skills. The knight presses his blade against her throat, while her sword clatters uselessly away. Juke addresses both of them with utter disdain. His keen gaze takes in their total defeat. He mockingly questions if they truly have time to be fooling around in such a place. Errol defiantly shouts that her mother is still under Leno's protective barrier. Leno stands resolute, his expression unwavering as he backs her claim. Juke's face twists into a menacing grin as he sneers that he will ensure Leno's demise. Leno realizes with dread that even a strong barrier is futile if the target is forced to remain defenseless. His eyes widen as the horrifying realization strikes him. He gazes at the body of the slain sorcerer Falco, lying lifeless on the ground. He turns to Errol, insisting they must comply with the Duke's orders, much to her shock. He clarifies that their immediate priority is to ensure the safety of her and her mother. Errol quietly accepts his grim reasoning, her shoulders sagging in defeat. Juke announces he will arrange a carriage for their transport. Leno Sinnerjack states he has just one request to make. His gaze remains steady and determined as he confronts the man. He requests permission to meet with his master and the general. Juke agrees with a smooth smile, assuring him that he will make the arrangements. Inside the carriage, Errol hides her face, trying to suppress her heart-wrenching sobs. They sit across from each other in the dark, lavish carriage as it jolts into motion. Lenos ponders why his barrier failed to react during the mansion invasion, suspecting an insider's involvement. He dismisses the thought, questioning why he is receiving better treatment than Errol. He notices her body trembling uncontrollably. Her hand rests on the seat beside her, shaking. He gently covers her hand, vowing to save her and her master in exchange for his own life. Errol looks up at him, tears streaming down her cheeks as she whispers his name in gratitude. He apologizes for startling her, assuring her he'll return soon and that he is fine. He gazes out the carriage window, his expression grim as he watches the scenery blur by. As they near the palace, he notices the number of soldiers lining the streets is growing. 2 blood-stained guards stand grimly, sensing the rising odor of death in the air. Lenos, a young man with dark hair, watches, his expression a mix of shock and fear. His eyes dart upward, body tensing as he notices something troubling in the distance. The castle's enormous main gate towers above, soldiers milling about beneath its stone arch. Inside a carriage, someone ponders whether the refugees are seeking refuge at the royal palace. A blonde woman urgently calls out to Lenos, frantically gesturing towards the castle roof. Perched like grotesque gargoyles, a horde of wyverns rests on the castle parapets. Horrified, the blonde woman asks what's happening, while Lena questions if the wyverns are attacking. An older man with a mustache calmly directs Lenos and the woman to exit the carriage. The carriage door swings open, revealing a shocked Lenos and his companion inside. On the battlements, a colossal wyvern looms over a gathering of soldiers, a caped figure nearby. Below, civilians gaze up in silent awe, captivated by the unfolding spectacle. The woman asks Lenos if the army is losing, while he wonders if anyone is at the gate. Lenos wears a grim expression, scanning the chaotic scene for any clues. His gaze fixes on a solitary caped figure standing defiantly atop the castle wall. The figure turns, revealing a man with stark white hair and a cold, determined look. Lenos and the woman gasp in shock and betrayal, whispering the name Marshal Kalgi. Kalgi gazes down at the crowd, his expression unreadable and silent. He bellows to the crowd, declaring himself the former marshal of the Yuka Kingdom, Shigakagi. As Lenos and the woman watch in horror, Kalgi proclaims the nation has decayed and must be eradicated. The terrified civilians listen as he vows to forge a new, truly powerful nation from the ruins. The mustached man smirks, noting that to achieve this, the old blood must be cleansed. Kalji shouts that this cleansing must be paid for in blood, a purge of the old ways. His soldiers roar in fervent agreement, declaring this the first step toward a mighty nation. He gestures dramatically toward the center of the battle, capturing everyone's attention. Linos and the woman stare in horrified fascination, uncertain of what will unfold. An immensely overweight nobleman is dragged forward, screaming for someone to kill the rebel Kalji. The prisoner frantically shifts his plea, demanding anyone to strike down the rebel dogs. Kalji looks down at the terrified nobleman, his expression one of pure, merciless disdain. With a chilling, cold expression, he issues the one-word command to proceed. A soldier shoves the chained man, who lets out a strangled cry as he is pushed off the wall. The man's body plummets through the air, his terrified screams echoing in silence. A close-up reveals his eye wide with terror just before the moment of fatal impact. The castle battlements erupt in a cloud of dust and shattered stone. A man with long, pale hair laughs maniacally, proclaiming Kalji's reign has come to an end. Kalji's expression hardens into a grim mask as he processes this sudden act of betrayal. From the wall, a soldier reaches out, screaming in sheer terror. The soldier's eyes widen in fear as he witnesses the unfolding horror. Linus realizes with dawning dread that the attacker aims to annihilate the royal family. With a sadistic grin, the pale-haired man shrieks a command to his monstrous wyverns. A wyvern's massive fanged maw lunges toward a terrified, screaming soldier. A beast snatches a woman and her child from the panicked crowd below. Another wyvern brutally bites a soldier in half, spraying gore everywhere. The woman and child are dropped from a great height, their screams abruptly silenced. Arrow emits a piercing shriek of pure terror at the horrifying scene. Desperate, Linus begins channeling his magic, attempting to create a protective barrier. His eyes widen in shock as his effort is suddenly interrupted. The mustached man smirks, telling Linus to stop his futile interference. Errol shouts Linos' name, pointing in alarm toward the main castle gate. A group of prisoners is herded through the gate by Kalji's soldiers. Lino gapes in shock, spotting his master Falco among the captives. Errol weeps, her hands shielding her face as she cries out for her family. Falco advises Linos against using a barrier for his mangled arm. His arm is revealed, severely injured, oozing a dark, thick fluid. Lino berates himself for his naivety, believing his master was safe. With a frigid demeanor, Linos tells Kalji his powerful arm is now accessible. He offers his arm to Kalji as a gesture of service. With a threatening glare, Lino pledges to serve him from this moment onward. He consents to serve, but demands the release of his master and the hostages. Kalji scoffs at the boy, declaring that the prisoner's fate is already decided. Falco and the others are shown under guard, their execution a foregone conclusion. Holding a trembling Arrow, Lina screams that Kalji must follow his command or perish. Errol whispers to Linos, urging him to do whatever is necessary to rescue her uncle. Kalji stops them, stating he has one question before providing his answer. He demands to learn the secret method to access the Balsam family treasury. Linus is completely taken aback, unable to fathom that Kalji knows such a secret. On the castle battlements, the rebel commander Kalji insists on being told everything. Linos, realizing there's a traitor, insists on stalling by tending to his master's wounds first. He proclaims with fierce loyalty that if his master dies, he won't utter a word. A faint, knowing smile appears on Kalji's face, acknowledging Lenos's understanding of his position. Turning away, the commander strides off, calling for a man named Shen to execute his orders. A man with a tidy mustache appears, bowing with a friendly smile, confirming his compliance. Linos and his female companion stare in utter disbelief, recognizing the traitor as Wheaton. The scene flashes back to the past, where a young boy's voice calls out for his uncle. A much younger beaming Kalji is introduced, his face radiating innocent joy. His grandfather, a celebrated general, listens intently as the boy requests more stories. The general pulls his grandson into a warm embrace, boasting of his numerous victorious campaigns. The adoring child vows to become a soldier like his grandfather and create an unbeatable nation. His grandfather beams with pride, telling the boy he is counting on him to achieve that. The old general smiles broadly, proudly affirming that the boy is indeed his grandson. In a quiet moment, the general advises the child that as a soldier, he must never falter. Years later, a self-assured teenage Kalji receives praise at the academy for leading a strong life. His instructors note that the academy produces exceptional soldiers, and he stands out among them. They continue their accolades, observing that he excels at mentoring others even more than they do. One instructor muses that he eagerly anticipates seeing what the future holds for Kalgi. His focus then shifts to another student, identifying him as Alman Fawn of the Balsam family. The instructor comments that Alman also upholds the honor of his family name. Alman is portrayed as another outstanding student who brings no shame to his house. The instructor speculates that Kalgi will lead the military, while Alman will handle civil matters. A confident Kalgi suggests that one day they might become the two wings supporting the royal family. Alman quietly contemplates the possibility of them becoming the kingdom's two supporting wings. The scene shifts back to the present, revealing a military camp shrouded in darkness. A soldier presents a large, crafted wyvern egg to Commander Kalgi, fulfilling his command. Inside his tent, Kalgi inspects the egg, confirming with his subordinate that it has been accomplished. A scarred man named Shen smiles, expressing that it is an honor to be entrusted with this duty. Shen continues to observe with a respectful, almost apprehensive demeanor. He inquires of Commander Kalgi what he plans to do with the monstrous egg. Kalgi reveals he is experimenting with a method to make the creature submit to his will. The scarred man watches silently, his expression inscrutable as Kalgi holds the key to his ambitions. A soldier warns his commander that the high command and royal family would oppose their scheme. Marshal Kalgi, his expression somber, asserts that the royal family and nearby nobles are deeply corrupt. A fleeting, contemptuous image depicts a lavish nobleman with two sorrowful girls, illustrating this point. Kalgi clenches his fist, fervently proclaiming that the royal army is the true backbone of the nation. Waiton, with a smug grin, asks the soldiers if they believe Kalgi wields all the authority. The soldiers appear uneasy, with one hesitantly conceding that it is indeed the case. Waiton's gloved hand rests on the table as he slyly inquires about a political pardon for Barsam. Kalgi's frustration is evident as he realizes he can't overlook the dire situation in the country. A solid black panel marks a sharp transition to a different scene. During a tense council meeting, a stern marquis expresses his strong disapproval of the invasion. Furious, Kalgi argues that this is the ideal moment to strike and expand their territory. The marquis counters, questioning how they would secure new lands, pointing out their nation's limitations. Kalgi brushes off the concern, coldly suggesting they simply seize what they need from nearby towns. With a fist on the table, the marquis insists that fortifying the nation from within should be the focus. Kalgi jumps to his feet, shouting that his approach is the only viable option, but is interrupted. Waiton openly backs the marquis' stance, shocking another council member. Kalgi's face reveals suppressed rage as the military buildup is officially delayed. A council member watches from a distance, noting Kalgi's long-standing animosity towards the marquis. He ponders Kalgi's true intentions, suspecting his rumored dealings with demonic forces. Kalgi seethes, his expression contorting as he hurls the word cowards. He storms down a lengthy corridor, resolved to carve his own path to destruction. A striking visual divides his face, contrasting his hardened present with a more idealistic past. The other half of his face reveals the determined, radical individual he is transformed into. At a gathering, Waiton greets a young woman, noting they haven't crossed paths since her ceremony. Lino, clearly irritated, tells him not to use the overly formal title, Oju-sama. He disregards her, smoothly introducing himself as Shen Waiton, a lieutenant colonel in military intelligence. Marshal Kalgi appears, impatiently demanding the barrier's password from the mage, Shen. Shen looks up, his expression tense and serious as he finds himself under scrutiny. Waiton smoothly steps in, instructing Shen to leave the matter to him and taking charge. He produces a glowing magical artifact, commanding Lino to step aside. A magical seal ignites on Shen's chest, causing him to cry out in pain. Lino shouts his name in alarm, desperately asking what is happening to him. Waiton smirks, mockingly noting that Shen seems completely oblivious to his predicament. He reveals the horrifying truth. He has now become the overseer of Shen's slave contract. A woman's back is stained with blood, indicating that Falco's arm has been severed. Filled with pure rage, the blonde woman Linus grits her teeth and accuses her opponent. A smug man, Wyland, seizes her from behind, condescendingly telling her to act her age. The dark-haired man's Shin clutches his chest, bewildered by how his barrier was breached. Willen reveals that Shen's failure stemmed from wearing a forbidden anti-appraisal magical item. He continues, explaining that an unexpected consequence was the excruciating pain Shen felt passing through his own barrier. Patronizingly, Willen notes that the pain was severe for Shen, but would have been unbearable for anyone else. He cruelly concludes that Shen's own naivety is the root cause of this entire disastrous situation. Overwhelmed by the revelation, Shen collapses, whispering that it is his fault his plans were futile. Linos, her face filled with sorrow, inquires about her family, fearing for their lives. The blonde commander coldly states that his method for obtaining the password was to locate them. He describes setting a fire to smoke them out, forcing them to reveal their positions. A flashback shows the matriarchs burning nearby, which the commander claims revealed her location. Since she refused to speak, the Duke and Marquis were subjected to the same brutal torture. The commander callously reveals that this is how they ultimately discovered the family's whereabouts. Tears streaming down her face, Lino begs Shen to let her go and save her mother. Chen, filled with his own anguish, insists that she stay back and allow him to handle it. The commander observes, his face a mask of indifference, having heard their frantic cries. His patience has run dry. He announces that their pleas for mercy are futile. As the butler presses Shen, Lino yells for him to prioritize his own safety. The commander issues a stern order for the password to be disclosed at once. Shen grits his teeth against the pain, defiantly stating he has no knowledge of it. Willen scoffs at his obstinacy, noting he mirrors his master's traits. He thrusts the slave contract artifact closer, demanding the password as Shen cries out in torment. Amidst the agony, Shen remembers his kind mistress never wielded this dreadful power against him. Drawing strength from her memory, he shouts his defiance one last time before collapsing. The commander bellows in rage, questioning how long they will persist in their defiance. Visions of the Defiant Council and his tormented victims flash through his furious mind. The commander and his subordinates' faces are twisted in raw, unrestrained fury. At his breaking point, the commander coldly instructs his men to eliminate everyone present. Wylan orders Shen to drop the barrier as a dark vortex of magic surges forward. Lino screams in sheer terror, urgently pleading for them to halt the deadly assault. With a final malicious grin, the commander issues a chilling command to kill. Falco, a man with blonde hair, screams in pain as black corruption erupts from his chest. A young man and woman watch in utter horror and disbelief. Falco's lifeless head rests on the ground, surrounded by a pool of dark liquid. The young man gazes at a glowing magic circle on his hands, questioning his purpose. He mourns that with this single magic he couldn't save anyone. Though he yearns to heal their wounds, his body refuses to respond. Suddenly, he jerks forward uncontrollably, shocked by his body's betrayal. With a gasp, he realizes the seal of the slave contract is fracturing. A close-up of his eye reveals a dawning realization and deep shock. A now free hand is shown covered in the same dark substance. A memory surfaces of a bloodied Falco apologizing to His Highness for acting independently. With his final breath, Falco collapses, his wish to offer a gift unfulfilled. The young man, the prince, watches, his eyes wide with horror. Falco's body is engulfed by the strange black substance as his life comes to an end. The prince screams, visions of his terrified aunt and uncle flashing in his mind. His aunt cries out his uncle's name, desperately calling for her father. Her eye reflects the terror as she screams Falco's name in fear. A monstrous wyvern is commanded to devour everything below, leaving no trace. The prince cries for the carnage to cease as the wyvern descends. A young woman, her face splattered with blood, stares in horror as tears flow down her cheeks. A stern man in dark armor restrains the prince, commanding him to be silent. The man grips the struggling prince by his long hair, instructing him to behave. The prince writhes, screaming in utter despair as he is held back. He calls out for his lady as the wyvern looms ominously over her. The lady, now a fierce knight, leaps into battle against the enormous beast. She soars through the air, her blade aimed straight at the wyvern's neck. Her face is a mask of furious grief as she demands the return of her people. A blur of motion shows her powerful strike connecting with the beast's hide. Her blade finds its mark, sinking into the wyvern's neck and spraying dark blood. The prince realizes too late that her attack was either dodged or ineffective. The knight hangs heavy, her momentum spent, leaving her vulnerable before the beast. The massive head of the wyvern turns slowly, its gaze locking onto her. She is slammed to the ground, her body erupting in a splash of black corruption. A young man's face is frozen in a silent gasp of sheer shock and disbelief. Tears stream down her cheeks as Errol coughs up dark blood, whispering Leonos' name in her last moments. The enormous wyvern's head retracts, its bloody task now finished. Lino stares in shock, his mind struggling to comprehend the horrific sight before him. The sight of the blood-soaked monster confirms his deepest fears have come true. A cruel man with blonde hair smirks, coldly commanding his wyvern to consume Linus next. The gigantic wyvern, its eyes glowing with malice, towers over the solitary figure of Linus. A torn piece of Arla's frilly dress drops from the beast's maw, a final brutal reminder. His mind flashes back to a cherished memory of Errol, alive and beaming with joy. That beautiful memory shatters, and Lino's Sandless erupts into a primal scream of unfiltered rage. He slams his hand into the ground, vowing with fiery hatred that he will never forgive them. A surge of immense power radiates from his touch, fracturing the earth beneath him. He vows they will regret existing in his presence as the ground erupts outward. From afar, one of the commanders wonders if the beast plans to obliterate the castle. His subordinate mockingly questions why Linos, a supposedly virtuous person, smiles with such malice. Surrounded by dark orbs of energy, Linos declares he has no choice but to eliminate them. The magical orbs swarm the massive creature, clinging to its body in a terrifying assault. The villains realize with alarm that his attack is serious and aim directly at them. With icy, burning eyes, Linos tells the blonde villain he is the next target. The wyvern's body starts to rupture violently, exploding from within the magical barrier. Linos explains his gruesome method, superheating the barrier to trigger a catastrophic steam explosion. He taunts the writhing beast, chillingly asking if the agony of collapsing from within is unbearable. In a final bloody eruption, the massive wyvern crumples into a steaming, mangled pile. Linos plants his foot on the devastated ground, his expression stern and unforgiving. He states that the monster's suffering was nowhere near enough to atone for its deeds. The beast's remains dissolve into a bloody, unrecognizable mess on the ground. Its single reptilian eye stares blankly in its final horrifying moment of existence. He asks his foes if they feel fear, questioning if his loved one's terror was any less. Extending his hand, he utters a final command for the creature to perish. The remnants of the wyvern explode in a final concussive surge of dark energy. The remaining commanders observe, one asking the other if he should step in. The lead commander, Kalgi, clicks his tongue in irritation, deciding to take matters into his own hands. His expression hardens with grim resolve as he prepares to confront the new threat. Perched on the ruined battlements, he sneers at Linos' talk of creating a true stronghold. Linos points at them, declaring that such a dream is already shattered, and he will kill them now. He turns away, stating they must be eliminated for slaughtering those he cherished. A massive torrent of dark, swirling energy erupts from Linus, brimming with raw power. He unleashes a final scream of fury, condemning them for what they did to his family. His subordinate stares in shock, wondering what kind of barrier magic this could be. The subordinate realizes with dawning horror that this barrier magic envelops the royal palace. A calm voice instructs Linos to halt, explaining the command compelling him no longer functions. Linos lowers his head, revealing that his master had freed him from servitude at last. Wayton senses a strange force, as if the rubble itself is being drawn toward something. A dark, shadowy hand presses against a stone block, absorbing its very essence. Recognizing the looming threat, Wayton barks an order to his subordinate, Witten, to retreat. A foot steps forward through the debris, ignoring the command to pull back. The former marshal, Kalgi, lunges ahead, his cape billowing amidst the chaos. Wayton recognizes him with dread, crying out the former marshal's title in disbelief. He lets out a silent, desperate scream as events spiral violently out of his control. A cataclysmic explosion of pure white light engulfs the entire scene in an instant. From afar, a massive crystalline structure is seen erupting from the castle grounds. In the town surrounding the castle, a citizen cries out, lost in fear and confusion for his home. A stout man anxiously checks on his family amid the panicked crowd. From a hill overlooking the capital, a couple stares in stunned disbelief at the horizon. The man observes that the entire castle has disappeared, pondering what transpired in the capital. He drops to his knees, overwhelmed by a sense of helplessness at the unfathomable event. Linus sits by himself, a small, solitary figure in a vast, shattered landscape. With a shaking hand, he reaches out to touch the massive, dark crystalline wall. A vision of a single closed eye within the crystal flashes in his mind. He presses his palm against the cold, unyielding surface of the monstrous structure. He stands alone, a solitary mourner before the impossibly large crystalline tomb. His face reflects deep sorrow and grim determination in the desolate surroundings. Kneeling before the crystal, he vows not to leave it in this condition. He knows his loved ones, the mistress, master, and prince, are trapped within its depths. A memory of their smiling faces floods his mind, bringing unbearable grief. A raw scream of despair erupts from his throat, declaring he can't abandon them like this. He pleads for their forgiveness, lamenting his failure to shield them from this fate. He wonders how much magical energy he has left for the monumental task ahead. He resolves to hide their grotesque tomb, ensuring no one can see or disturb them. Spreading his arms wide, he unleashes a swirl of magical energy to initiate his spell. Suddenly he halts, eyes wide with an inexplicable sense of dread. He feels compelled to leave before the townspeople arrive. The smiling faces of his found family, Warasa, and the others flash through his mind. He remembers hearing that the military took the residents of the house away. A flicker of hope or possibility crosses his mind as he begins to walk away. A sudden chill of premonition runs down his spine, confirming something is amiss. He resolves to investigate for himself to uncover the truth. He approaches the familiar estate gates, breathing heavily with anticipation. He gazes at the distant city wall, the night sky filled with dust and debris. He recalls that just hours ago, this scene was so different and serene. A memory of the young mistress laughing beside him pierces his thoughts with sharp pain. He remembers the path he took when he first arrived in this unfamiliar world. He recalls following his master, looking up at the castle filled with uncertainty and fear. The stark contrast between the warm past and the cold present weighs heavily on his heart. He clenches his jaw, his steps resolute as he nears the damaged estate, determined to confront whatever truth lies within. The grand mansion looms before him, partially damaged yet eerily intact. The gates of his former home stand broken, yet still upright against a snowy backdrop. He steps inside, his fragile composure shattering as he realizes everything is gone. He rushes through the empty courtyard, desperately calling out for Warasa and the others. His voice cracks as he screams into the ruined halls, asking if anyone is present. He collapses to his knees, attempting to cast a detection spell with his remaining strength. The faint blue glow of the spell radiates outward, revealing only emptiness and silence. He pleads for anyone, just one person, to remain in the desolate rooms. Collapsing in despair, his cries for anyone fade into a heartbroken sob. He forces himself to stand, a faint sound catching his attention and startling him. He peers down a long, arched corridor, senses heightened for any sign of movement. He wonders if the sound is merely the wind or an animal moving through the ruins. He spots a set of footprints on the dusty floor, a clue amidst the silence. He realizes with a jolt that there are no signs of a struggle, only tracks leading away. He understands that those who survived the blast simply fled. His mind drifts to a memory of the headmaid, Warasa, cheerfully explaining the layout. He grits his teeth in pain, blaming himself and feeling remorse. Two maids warmly welcome him back, inquiring if he faced another reprimand. As he strolls through the vacant corridor, he apologizes, aware his friends are lost. Approaching a grand pair of doors, he tentatively rests a hand on the wood. He cracks the door open, peering into the dim, quiet chamber. His eyes land on the fireplace in the dining hall, questioning its safety. Entering the room, tension fills his face. Every sense is heightened. A memory surfaces of his mistress Elsa, asking if he's prepared for her orders. She calmly instructs him to retrieve something vital from the treasury. By the fireplace, she explains to a younger Lenus that this task is essential. She discloses that the fireplace stone is enchanted, responding only to the authorized. With her explanation complete, she declares it's time to leave, and he nods quietly. Carrying lanterns, they descend the dark stone staircase into the vault's shadows. He questions if a simple barred door is the entrance, but she gestures elsewhere. Before a foreboding dragon-headed door, she prepares to share the crucial password. Her tone is grave as she begins to speak the secret incantation. In the present, Leno vocalizes the password. Confusion washes over him. As the heavy stone door grinds open, he stands alone at the entrance. Inside the treasury, he gazes at priceless family heirlooms encased in glass. He recalls his mistress teaching him how to unlock the vault. Turning away from the treasures, he whispers a soft, sorrowful apology. He wonders what worth these items hold compared to his family's lives. Peeking out the door, he admits to himself that he truly cannot grasp it. The imposing sealed vault door looms, a silent, heavy monument. He slumps against the cold stone, his posture radiating utter defeat. His face reflects a mix of turmoil and despair as he leans on the door. He reminisces about the kitchen and dining hall, once vibrant and warm. Determined to tidy up the aftermath of the battle, he reaches for a door. A joyful memory of 3 maids greeting him with food fills his thoughts. The kitchen today is immaculate but hauntingly silent and deserted. He reflects on how the painful familiarity of the room makes the silence unbearable. With a heavy heart, he turns and walks away from the empty kitchen. In a quiet room, Linus discovers a package, wondering what it could be. He picks up the box, examining it with curiosity among other bundles. As he unwraps it, he wonders if someone has just returned from shopping. Shock crosses his face as he recognizes the contents, preserved hard-baked bread. Focusing on the box, he begins to open it, feeling a sense of apprehension. A sudden flash of recognition lights up his face as he sees what's inside. He pulls out a dark, formal uniform, holding it up to examine the fabric. The familiar fabric and buttons confirm his dawning realization. He remembers this uniform. A memory surfaces of him with the staff, as the master had the uniform tailored for him. Stunned, he realizes the belongings left behind were for others, but this was meant for him. He argues with himself that this package holds a different value, not about the treasury. A vision of the kind, smiling household staff floods his memory with warmth. He understands the package was prepared to help him escape, a final act of protection. Overwhelmed, he sobs, wishing they had been the ones to survive and find safety. Beneath a snowy sky, the grand estate stands silent behind its closed gate. With heavy hands, he shuts the main gate one last time, filled with sorrow. He reflects that what they left him is far more valuable than any treasure. Memories of joyful moments with the master and young mistress flash through his mind. He remembers the nurturing matriarch from his childhood, those irreplaceable moments of happiness. Climbing a crumbling staircase, he readies himself to create a final shield to honor their memory. A sudden flicker catches his attention, prompting him to call out, sensing a presence. 2 weary figures emerge, not soldiers but locals, casting wary glances back. He spots a dark streak of blood on one man's arm, realizing he's hurt. Compassion outweighs his caution as he steps closer, offering assistance for the injury. The 2 men flinch back, their faces twisted in sheer, unfiltered fear. They scramble away in terror, shouting as he approaches them. He halts, utterly perplexed by their extreme response to his offer of aid. One man raises a stick, screaming for him to keep his distance in sheer panic. The man's terrified cry brands him a monster, leaving Linus speechless. He glances around, confused, sensing no demonic force that could justify their fear. One of the men yells in terror that he is about to be killed. They beg for help, claiming a monster has taken on a human guise. Another man calls for the guards, warning the monster to stay away. Eyes wide with disbelief, the young man questions how he could be seen as a monster. Alone in a barren, rocky wasteland, he reflects on the tale of a slain beast nearby. The memory of a townsfolk's scream, urging him not to approach, haunts him. He grips his chin, desperately pondering what he has turned into. He inspects his clothes, noting they are stained with blood, though it isn't his. Running his fingers through his hair, he confirms no horns have sprouted. He glides a hand along his neck, observing that his skin remains unchanged. By a small fire, he contemplates how no monsters attacked him in the perilous woods. Hugging his knees tightly, he is engulfed by a deep sense of isolation. He exhales a heavy, weary sigh, the emotional and physical toll of his journey clear. A warm memory surfaces of his entire found family laughing together in a sunlit glade. Huddled against the cold, he is tormented by the stark contrast between his past and present. A tempest of sorrow, frustration, and pain swirls around him as the last embers die. His campfire extinguishes completely, leaving him alone in darkness with his grief. Utterly drained, he shuts his eyes, feeling the weight of his exhausting journey. He lies down on the unforgiving ground, wishing the entire day had been a nightmare. A voice softly calls his name, and his eyes snap open in the dark. Instinctively, he scrambles up, seizing a knife and demanding to know who is there. At the cave's entrance, he sees his entire found family standing before him. Stunned, he stutters their names, questioning how his master and mistress could be present. His gaze lands on Errol's leg, wrapped in a bandage glowing ominously with a dark curse. He notices the other men of the house, each clutching serious wounds on their chests. His master Falco is also there, missing an arm, and Lenos wonders if this is a dream. Falco explains they were ambushed by a wyvern, expressing immense relief that Linus survived. Errol steps forward, teasingly asking why he looks so shocked and if he's unhappy to see her. Completely flustered, Leno stammers that it's not that at all. His mind is reeling. The matriarch Elsa embraces him, her face wet with tears of joy that he is safe. He thinks to himself that he should be the one expressing such deep relief. The dam of his composure finally breaks, and he sobs with overwhelming joy that they are alive. Later, the reunited group stands together in a rocky passage, weary yet safe. Falco suggests they take a break, and the matriarch agrees, admitting her fatigue from walking. The small party gathers around a magically ignited fire, finally taking a well-deserved rest. She also offers Lino some of her homemade treats, while Errol presents her own lumpy creation. Lino expresses her uncertainty, while an older woman calmly asks if she can fulfill the request. A young man and a blonde woman react with shared disgust at a bizarre-looking meal served in a bowl. Linos, the young man with dark hair, cheerfully agrees to his friend's suggestion. Eru, the woman, points at the unusual food in surprise, revealing she was the one who purchased it. As Linus enjoys his meal, Eru beckons him for a private chat away from the others. Respectfully, Lino inquires with his long-haired mentor Falco about the topic of discussion. Linos is taken aback by his master's sudden intensity, his face twisting in shock. The master gazes at him intently, probing Linos about his clearly displeased demeanor. A solitary tear wells up in the young man's eye, silently reflecting his inner struggle. Linos admits that without his magic, he feels completely useless to them now. The master watches wearily, mourning the loss of the royal library's invaluable records. Linus gasps in disbelief, addressing his master with the formal title, Your Highness. He drops to his knees, profusely apologizing for his perceived failures and shortcomings. With a faint smile, the prince acknowledges that he was the one who misspoke. He commends Linos, stating that he ultimately succeeded in safeguarding the nation from Calgi. Overwhelmed by the praise, Linos struggles to accept it, feeling unworthy of such compliments. A tearful smile breaks through as he expresses his happiness for the prince's survival. The prince observes with a gentle smile, quietly agreeing with the young man's feelings. He comments that the thought of starting anew as an ordinary man is quite intriguing. An elderly noblewoman listens closely as the prince shares his thoughts with her privately. The matriarch chuckles warmly, noting how challenging it can be to act like an ordinary person. The prince suggests that Lino should now embrace life as a free man, just like him. Lino stares in disbelief, trying to grasp the incredible offer from his friends. His companions watch him with warm, knowing smiles, silently offering their support. Clenching his fist, he manages an emotional agreement to their life-changing proposal. The prince urges him to live freely from now on and carve his own path. The matriarch reassures him that the treasure he guards will keep him safe on his journey. Lina protests, his voice heavy with guilt over the fate of the Warasa family. The matriarch gently clarifies that they never disclosed the treasure's location to protect them. A memory reveals the matriarch's careful planning and foresight in managing the household staff. The smiling maids in the memory were never instructed to risk their lives for the treasure. The prince mentions their good fortune in discovering the food and supplies his family had prepared. Iriru explains they always believed he would return, so they gratefully prepared for that moment. Moved to tears by their unwavering faith in him, he can only manage a choked response. The matriarch declares that it is finally time for their group to enjoy their meal. He takes a bite of the food, exclaiming with pure delight at its exquisite flavor. The entire group shares the warm meal together, their spirits lifted by the comforting food. His companions explain that this is the taste of his homeland, the signature flavor of the Barsam family. He quietly affirms that he remembers the familiar taste of home all too well. The prince calls out his name, stating he has something very important to ask. He reveals that the name Linos was originally meant for his own son, who passed away at birth. Linos is taken aback, finally grasping the profound significance of the special name he bears. The matriarch confesses that despite his status as a slave, she has always seen him as her own child. She playfully asks if he would mind having an old woman like her as a parent. The prince formally inquires if he will accept the name and title of Lino C. Serm. Kneeling before them, Lino vows to cherish the precious name they have given him. He stands up, questioning why they are revealing all this to him at such a crucial moment. The scene zooms in on Arira's beautiful yet profoundly sorrowful face. The bearded man's expression is somber, mirroring the heavy atmosphere among the group. The The prince's gaze remains steady and serious, hinting at a difficult truth that must be shared. Another companion's face appears, his expression equally grim and filled with determination. The matriarch's face is etched with deep sadness, her eyes closed. Linos drifts in a surreal haze, murmuring that this sensation feels familiar. A cheerful Araru announces the meal was delightful, but she must take her leave. She informs him that dawn approaches and she'll be gone by the time he stirs. He asks where she's headed, failing to grasp the weight of her goodbye. In the dream, he asserts his determination to accompany her on her journey. His entire found family beams at him, expressing gratitude and wishing him a joyful, free life. The lovely dream turns bitter as he cries out for them to halt their farewells. He recognizes this moment from countless nightmares, a goodbye he must avert. He yells for them to stay, his voice breaking as he pleads for them to wait. Kneeling in the dream, he desperately calls out Araru's name. His body shakes with the immense struggle against the unavoidable farewell. She playfully chides him for finally using her first name in such a dire moment. Tears well in her eyes as she asks if he'll be okay when he awakens. He begs her, wishing she would laugh and say this is all a prank. She wishes she could, but assures him she will always be watching over him. He shouts that a beautiful tale means nothing without them to share it. She realizes that without sight and touch, words have lost their significance. Linos quakes, his head lowered in overwhelming sorrow and deep grief. Araru's voice trembles with her own unspeakable sadness and regret. Tears cascade down her cheeks as she apologizes for leaving him all alone. She comforts him, saying that despite everything, they are always part of him. She explains that his abilities, kindness, and magic were all passed down from them. Every aspect of who he is now comes from those he cherished and lost. He quietly embraces this reality, finally grasping her message. She states that everything he does from now on will be proof of their presence. She envelops him in a warm embrace, her arms securely around him. She urges him to give his all, promising she will do the same. Taken aback by her encouraging words, he can only gaze at her in silence. She smiles brightly, vowing to do her utmost so they can reunite one day. He's caught off guard by her sudden serious talk about making a promise. She inquires about the customs for promises in his faraway homeland. She describes her homeland's tradition of linking pinkies to create an unbreakable bond. With a bright, playful grin, she exclaims how romantic the gesture is. She takes his hand, intertwining her small finger with his to seal their vow. His sudden seriousness surprises her, and she playfully teases him. She declares that his challenging journey ahead only fuels her determination to see him again. A gentle smile graces his lips as he sincerely thanks Aruru for everything. A memory flashes of a joyful, carefree Araru clutching a small ornate locket. She agrees cheerfully, bidding him a bright farewell until they meet again. The joyful memory shatters, replaced by a haunting image of her terrified face. Lino jolts awake, pulled from the depths of his intense emotional dream. He finds himself alone in the barren landscape, sighing as he realizes it was all a dream. He glances at his hand, feeling the faint warmth of her promise lingering on his finger. He grips his hand tightly, knowing he must honor the promise made to Eru. He stands, gazing down the long, desolate path stretching before him. He wonders if, without a destination, simply living might be a valid choice. A sudden thunderous crash reverberates through the canyon, snapping him from his thoughts. He sees two grotesque creatures locked in a brutal, desperate fight for survival. He observes the struggle from afar, his expression one of stunned, silent contemplation. A hand clenches, crushing a small, glowing magical item as a voice considers a light punishment. A tremendous surge of crackling black lightning bursts forth with incredible power. The outline of a terrifying beast howls in pain as it disintegrates from the explosion. Lino strokes his chin, a puzzled expression crossing his face as he reflects on his error. In a rocky gorge, he shouts out, questioning whether he underestimated the force. A gigantic, fluffy white fox creature radiates joy, expressing gratitude for its rescue. Linus observes, still trying to wrap his head around the bizarre turn of events. With a look of utter disbelief, he inquires if the creature that spoke was indeed real. The fox cheerfully affirms it was the one who spoke, once more thanking him for saving it. The creature lowers its enormous head, curiously asking Linus what seems to be troubling him. Noticing his shock, it kindly suggests he might be hungry and offers him the slain monster. Linus recoils in horror, frantically waving his hands, firmly rejecting the offer. He clarifies to the fox that he only used a bit of magic, planning to flee if necessary. For some unknown reason, he observes that he can now adjust his power, something he couldn't before. The fox listens, a hint of disappointment on his face, a small bead of sweat forming. Leno grins, stating he's rested and regained his strength, now offering to heal the fox's wounds. He gently places his hand on the fox's head, and the creature visibly relaxes under his touch. As he channels his magic, Leno focuses intently, his eyes closed in concentration. The fox quivers with delight as the warm magical energy courses through its body. Linus asks how it feels, reassuring the fox that he won't harm it, and it has nothing to fear. The fox, now happily settled on his shoulder, responds with an enthusiastic yes. It then gestures with its head, requesting if he could heal its injured unicorn companion. Linos winks confidently, assuring the fox that this task is a piece of cake for him. With a contemplative look, he muses aloud about the situation, the fox still on his head. He approaches the unicorn, wondering if all creatures in this realm can speak. The fox proudly explains that as a 200-year-old spirit fox, it has mastered human speech. Linus is taken aback by this revelation, while the fox beams with pride. With a flourish, the fox drapes itself over his head, claiming its pure white fur proves its divinity. Linus gently instructs the unicorn to stay still while he tends to its injuries, noting its unicorn nature. As his hand nears, the wound on the unicorn's side bursts with dark, tainted energy. He gasps in alarm as the creature rears back, startled by the sudden surge of dark magic. The fox clings to the unicorn's mane, assuring it that Linus is trustworthy and it's best to remain still. Leno yells at the fox, telling it that its actions are making things worse. Once the unicorn settles down, the fox declares it's safe for Linus to approach again. Leno gently apologizes to the unicorn for startling it, extending his hand to calm the creature. He touches the deep, dark wound, assessing its severity as he prepares to heal. As his healing magic flows, a flicker of memory surfaces in his mind. He remembers the joy of healing his friends, his chosen family, a bittersweet recollection of happier days. The vision continues, showing him laughing and joking with his companions, including the smiling arrow. Back in reality, his expression turns somber, a single tear escaping as he completes the healing. He instructs the now-healed unicorn to try moving a bit to test its leg. The unicorn prances joyfully as the fox translates its gratitude, exclaiming it feels no pain. Lino watches them with a sad, distant gaze, lost in his memories. The fox turns to him with concern, asking if he is okay. It gently points out that he was crying. The fox keenly observes that this made him remember the family he lost. A vision of his smiling friends flashes again, the fox noting they even appeared in his dreams to encourage him. Lino hangs his head in sorrow, whispering that he couldn't repay them. The fox watches him, its expression filled with empathy. It hops down from the unicorn, a thoughtful look on its face. The creature gently nuzzles its soft cheek against his, and he looks down in surprise, asking what it's doing. He jolts, realizing the small creature is trying to console him. A faint, melancholic smile appears as he leans into the warmth, expressing gratitude to the fox. He observes the fox awkwardly starting to munch on the reeds he offered. The creature happily chews on the simple meal, gripping the stalk with both paws. Lino rests his chin on his hands, commenting on its clumsiness, while the fox insists it's tasty. He smiles nostalgically, noting how this simple meal reminds him of the exquisite dishes from his former house's chef. The fox's tone shifts, stating it's hard to believe that someone who healed it also took so many lives. Linos is left speechless, his face draining of color as he questions what the creature knows. The fox reveals that its initial fear stemmed from his aura. It explains that his gift of sensing others' emotions has turned into a curse, tainted by the sorrow of those he harmed. The fox gently sniffs his collar, detecting the lingering darkness. It concludes that while he isn't evil, the sheer number of lives he ended is overwhelming. The creature discloses that this is the curse now attached to him. Leno collapses to the ground, whispering the word curse in dawning horror. He grips his head, finally grasping why the kingdom's people feared him. The fox reassures him that thankfully the townsfolk were not harmed. Lino looks up in despair, realizing the families of the soldiers he killed must be among them. He gazes at the distant town beneath a snowy sky, certain their relatives are there. Covering his face with his hands, he laments that he has caused others to feel the same sadness he now endures. The fox gently scolds him for fixating on uncertainties as if they were facts. Lino listens, his face still a mix of turmoil and guilt. The fox observes him with a wise, patient demeanor. It offers a glimmer of hope, explaining that because he aided a divine beast, his curse has been slightly alleviated. The fox stands tall, dramatically raising its paws, offering to completely lift the curse with its divine power. Linus stares at the creature, shocked and reluctant to accept such a generous offer. He sits on a log, confessing to the fox that its offer feels too convenient to accept without hesitation. He clenches his fists, torn by overwhelming guilt. The fox gazes up at him, recognizing his guilt towards the families of his foes, seeing him as a kind soul. Lanos looks away, admitting he believes he deserves to suffer for his actions. He touches his own hand, a sign of deep internal struggle. The fox argues that he should break the curse now to live on and atone for his past. It adds that in his current cursed state, his options are limited, and there are ways to live without shame. A memory of Errol's smiling face surfaces, her voice encouraging him to do his best, reminding him this is within his reach. The vision fades, leaving him to ponder his choice. He turns to the fox, asking what would happen if he were to fail and make another mistake. The fox tilts its head, playfully questioning if he plans to do something bad. That simple question seems to cut through his anxiety. A warm, genuine smile spreads across his face as he softly replies, "No." The fox instructs him to extend both hands, and he complies. With a small leap, the creature hops into his open palms, declaring it's ready. A brilliant magical light bursts from their point of contact, startling Linus. He experiences a strange sensation, as if a powerful energy flows from the creature into him. The fox appears quite pleased, its paws glowing with residual magic. It announces that the transfer is complete and everything is fine now, asking if this suffices. The creature clarifies that this is a different matter than its interactions with its elders. Linos, a gentle smile gracing his face, thanks the creature for its assistance. The fox suddenly perks up, asking for its name and inquiring about its unicorn friend. It clarifies that it lacks a name and eagerly asks if Linos will bestow one. The creature explains that receiving a name as a divine familiar will enhance its status and power. With a thoughtful smile, Linus decides to name his fox companion Thanks. He snaps his fingers, playfully deciding on the name Gon after mulling over Kitsune. Gon, with a straight face, tells his master not to look so obviously let down. The unicorn's ears perk up, clearly thinking its own white coat is quite impressive. Noticing the unicorn's eager gaze, Lena turns to it, ready to suggest a name. He extends a gentle hand, softly asking the unicorn if it likes the name Irimo. Irmo happily nuzzles him, while Gon shows relief that it's a fitting name. Lino tells a satisfied Gon that it's time for them to depart the forest. The little fox jumps up with a joyful shout, declaring they will all accompany him. Gon joyfully drapes itself over Lino's shoulders, exclaiming that traveling is better with friends. A soft laugh escapes Lenos as he basks in the warmth of his fluffy companion. He smiles affectionately, patting both Gon and Irimo, expressing his happiness to have them. Now, resting on his shoulder, Gon whispers, asking where they will head after leaving the forest. As they walk through a rocky path, Linus admits he knows little about this land or world. Gon helpfully points out that the kingdom's heat is the nearest nation to their current spot. The fox's expression shifts to concern as it begins to mention a serious issue. Noticing his companion suddenly look glum, Linos inquires about their troubles. A flashback reveals that Irimo was once part of the cruel royal family of the Heated Kingdom. The memory shows the creature was mistreated, leading it to eventually flee. Lino looks taken aback, questioning Irimo's ties to the royal lineage. Suddenly, magnificent feathered wings spread from Irmo's back, unveiling its true form. He gasps in disbelief, realizing Irimo is a rare and precious Pegasus unicorn hybrid. Gently stroking Irimo's neck, Linus understands why the creature was captured and hunted. Irimo nuzzles its new master, conveying its strong desire to remain by his side. The unicorn shows its deep loyalty, having found the one it was destined to be with. Lino closes his eyes, deeply touched by the creature's loyalty, and expresses his gratitude. He vows to protect Irimo, but gently cautions it not to overexert itself. Gon cheers with unrestrained excitement, fully backing Linos's heartfelt promise. With a determined expression, Lino prepares to embark on their journey together. The small fox, Gon, is seen happily munching on what looks like a large beetle. Linos points ahead with a confident grin, announcing that it's time for them to move. The trio traverses a vast mountainous terrain, their sights set on the head of the kingdom. After a lengthy trek, an exhausted Linos leans on Eremu, questioning if they've finally arrived. He laments how challenging the journey through the Runa forest was on the plains. Yawning widely, he complains about not having a proper place to rest his body. He gently pets Iremo's head, voicing his concern for the creature's health. Two guards approach, one demanding to know Linos' origin and to state his name. Lino formally declares that he is a barrier master from the Barsum Marquisate of Juka. The guards are utterly shocked by his claim of coming from the Yucca kingdom. One guard points his spear menacingly, skeptically questioning if Lenos is merely a child. Lino raises his hands, realizing that revealing his noble name in an enemy territory was a blunder. A knight approaches, stating he overheard their conversation from the gate. The knight Seono introduces himself, intrigued that a nobleman traversed the perilous forest. In a formal meeting, a blonde woman directly asks Lenos if the Yucca kingdom has truly fallen. With a serious demeanor, Lino confirms there is no doubt the kingdom is lost. An official inquires if the demon lord attacked, which Lino confirms occurred while he was cursed. Two other officials discuss how Marshal Kalgi's rebellion led to the royal castle's ruin. A flashback shows a smiling man as the narrative explains he was defending the nation from demons. Shono listens closely, understanding that a great dragon was rumored to have appeared. A knight in armor sits with his arms crossed, listening to the report with a somber expression. The knight expresses relief that their intelligence was accurate and thanks Linos for the update. Lino gazes down, bewildered as a hand unexpectedly clasps his. Sono expresses regret for the trouble and asks to meet the Prime Minister tomorrow. Both Lino and Gon are taken aback by the sudden call to see the Prime Minister. Sayano assures them he will arrange their accommodations for the night. A woman offers to lead Linus to his room, and he agrees, though hesitantly. He gladly accepts the invitation to be shown to his evening quarters. Linus is astonished by the opulence of the building, exclaiming, "It's too extravagant." The guide tells him she will return to collect him in the morning. Lena graciously thanks the woman as she takes her leave. He flops onto the massive plush bed, awestruck by the room's luxury. Reclining on a chaise, he exhales deeply, finally feeling at ease. He spots guards discreetly stationed outside, realizing he's being watched. He informs Gon that he plans to report on Juka's downfall at the Prime Minister's meeting. He glances at his travel-worn attire, noting its dirtiness and wear. His eyes drift to his hand as he brushes against his ornate sleeve, lost in thought. The following day, Seano arrives to escort him, cheerfully calling him Lord Linos. Now clad in a fine dark suit, Linus politely greets Sayano with a good morning. Sino is humorously taken aback by Linos' remarkable transformation. He apologizes, admitting he nearly entered the wrong room, but Lina confirms his identity. Sayano explains that a carriage awaits to take them to their significant meeting. The carriage glides over a grand stone bridge leading to a stunning white castle. Lino stares out the window in disbelief, realizing they aren't heading to a military site. Seono confirms they are indeed going to the castle and will wait for Lino inside. He introduces another attendant who will guide Lino the rest of the way. A new attendant leads Lino through an impressive hall toward the Prime Minister's reception area. The attendant points to a large, ornate door, instructing Lino to wait there. Peeking inside, Linus spots an armored soldier standing guard in the room. He feels a growing unease, realizing there are hidden guards everywhere. An elderly man with a monocle greets him, confirming he is the expected Lord Linos. The man welcomes him after his long journey and courteously invites him to sit. With his eyes shut, Linos formally reintroduces himself as a barrier master of the Bars Marquisate. The man, Velos, smiles, recognizing Linus' status as a former slave now under the Marquis' protection. Velos inquires about his master, and Linos assures him that he is doing well. His demeanor shifts to serious as he questions the situation in the now leaderless Juka kingdom. Lino voices his deep concern that civil war is highly likely. He asks with urgency if their empire intends to send troops to Juka. The virus dismisses the notion, stating it would only add to their burdens and casualties. He laments that with the Marquis and Marshal gone, dangerous ambitions are surfacing. Linos is taken aback, questioning if that's how the Marshal is perceived by other nations. Vilas asks if the rumor about the Marquis working for 3 days straight is accurate. He recalls that by the time he returned from a trip, chaos had already erupted. Vilas then asks Lenus what he knows about the fate of the great Archmage Falco. Linos is stunned by the inquiry, exclaiming that Falco is his master. Vela looks down, somberly acknowledging the tragic news of his sacrifice. A flashback reveals the wild-haired Falco, a strict Spartan instructor who drove young students from the Empire. Linos smiles nostalgically, admitting that while his master was tough, he sees him as a good father. Viles closes his eyes, commenting that it seems Falco led a rich and fulfilling life. Viles is abruptly interrupted as a voice calls for him to enter a different chamber. An armored guard halts abruptly behind him, startling the elderly man with his sudden arrival. A young man named Linos stares wide-eyed, questioning if what he just heard is true. The old villain grins, inviting Lino to an unprecedented meeting with the Emperor. In a formal manner, Linos presents himself as a modest servant of Balsas Marcusat. Within the Grand Throne Room, the Emperor announces that an exception has been granted for this meeting. Linos is taken aback, realizing the imposing figure beside Velas is indeed the Emperor. The Emperor's gaze is piercing, his eyes locked onto Linos with intensity. A drop of sweat trickles down Lenos' forehead as he endures the monarch's unsettling glare. Breathing heavily, the Emperor murmurs to himself, feeling out of place and questioning the situation. His eyes scan the room, wondering if unseen forces are lurking in the shadows. In profile, Linos contemplates the most crucial aspect of this bizarre encounter. With a nervous expression, he admits to himself that he can't grasp the Emperor's words. Vilas, annoyed, urges the Emperor to articulate clearly and share the information he possesses. The Emperor replies calmly, stating he is simply reiterating what he has been informed. Lino confirms the information is accurate, reiterating what he already knows. A heavy silence descends as the Emperor continues to fixate on Lino without uttering a word. Linos expresses his gratitude to the Emperor for the audience and respectfully requests to leave. Once outside on the castle steps, he stretches dramatically, exclaiming how tense that was. The cheerful guard, Cyano, warmly greets Lino, acknowledging his efforts. Suno kindly offers to show Linos around the capital, an invitation he eagerly accepts. During their stroll, Seono mentions that the Prime Minister wishes to invite Lino to dinner. Flustered yet honored, Linos agrees to attend the dinner gathering. Sono explains the capital's unique layout, highlighting its impressive organization and freedom. Lino observes the convenient arrangement of the city's residential and commercial zones. His guide points out a grand, impressive building, identifying it as the university. Cyano gestures toward another magnificent structure, explaining it is the city's grand theater. As students pass by, Linus reflects on what a wonderful country this is. A handsome blonde aristocrat watches them, pondering that this must be the kingdom His Highness rules. The aristocrat calls out to Linos, inquiring if his formal attire is ready for the evening. Later, the aristocrat Vilas reviews documents, wondering if he will encounter a certain Errol again. He appears lost in thought, questioning if their paths are fated to cross once more. Siono asks Linus if he is purchasing a gift for someone special. In his room, Leno soon packs an unexpected number of items from his shopping excursion. A smiling Ciano announces that it's time for the dinner engagement. Lino relaxes on the bed, confessing to his familiar that he bought more than he planned. The fox-like Gon excitedly reminds him of the important dinner party with the Prime Minister. Linus intends to leverage his unique abilities to embark on a beneficial career. He wonders what topics will arise, assuming it will revolve around his former master. He imagines the lavish, multi-course feast prepared just for him. The blonde aristocrat Vilas arrives at the dinner, offering a courteous apology for his lateness. The elder Vilas greets him warmly, addressing him as Vilas and mentioning they had been waiting. Vilas then introduces himself as the Emperor's second son, leaving Lenos utterly stunned. The young prince bows apologetically, excusing his earlier discourtesy towards Linos. He proposes they set aside serious matters and simply converse for the evening. Linus is puzzled, questioning why a royal family member would go to such lengths. The elder Vilas reveals his connection, explaining that Prince Vilas is his grandson. He asks Linas if he comprehends the situation, noting he is free to decline their proposal. Prince Vilas formally requests Lenos to act as a guard for the imperial family. Lenos is completely taken aback by the request, exclaiming, "Guard the imperial family." The prince clarifies that the main issue is his ambitious and reckless sister, Ricolette. He describes her as strong-willed, noting her actions are causing strife with other nobles. The emperor appears weak, unable to manage his daughter's behavior effectively. Prince Vilas shares his anguish as he witnesses the troubling events unfold with his family. He discloses that his faction has already faced violent confrontations. The Elder Virus reiterates his request, urging Linos to protect both the prince and princess. The prince emphasizes the Empire's urgent desire to prevent a full-scale civil war. Linus feels the pressure of the request, a bead of sweat trickling down his brow. He worries that this monumental task is beyond a newcomer like him. Yet, the Elder Virus expresses unwavering faith in Linos' capabilities. He points to Linus's ties with the Balsas family and his respected mentor, Falco. Prince Vilas mentions his intention to hire Linos to foster a bond of trust. The Elder Vilas chuckles, warmly agreeing with his grandson's more personal approach. Lenos senses a strange familiarity in the atmosphere, reminiscent of the Balsas family. He accepts the responsibility, pledging not to disgrace his master's legacy. A cheerful Linos points out their new home to his friends. Now in Irimo, Gon admires the mansion's splendor and its beautifully maintained grounds. The fox playfully asks if they plan to lounge around and eat for free. Lenos admits he will need time to secure a reliable income. He feels a twinge of unease as the unfolding events seem oddly familiar. Gon inquires about the house's past, and Linos reminds his companion to care for it. The fox wonders if the house used to belong to the imperial family. The estate is revealed to be abundant in natural resources and just an hour from the capital. Lenos excitedly notes that the property was inexpensive due to nearby magical beasts. He is thrilled to find a fully equipped stable for his unicorn Irimo. He gestures happily toward a formal reception room, admitting he's unsure how to use it. Wearing a chef's hat, he gives an enthusiastic thumbs up to the modern kitchen. He luxuriates in a bath, soaking in the comforts of his new life. A delighted Linos plans the use of the mansion's 4 rooms with his companion. His new fox-like friend, Gengen, expresses its affection for the new estate. Linos acknowledges that while his life is now comfortable, he still needs a proper bedroom. He decides to ride Irimo to the capital for some essential shopping. He reveals his ambitious plan to launch a new business in the capital. An official confirms he has leveraged the Merchants Guild's influence for formal approval. Genkin, perched on his shoulder, asks if he has chosen a name for the new venture. Linos places his hand firmly on a book or sign, ready to announce his decision. He strikes a dramatic pose, triumphantly declaring the name Dark Company. A view of the stunning capital castle appears, setting the stage for a new chapter. Princess Ricolette gazes out from her carriage, her eyes fixed on the city below. She is visibly taken aback by the vibrant and rowdy brothel district she observes. Her view from the carriage reveals a bustling street, teeming with people and activity. Her attendant Shooter identifies the district, noting its unusual liveliness at this hour. Ricolette is deeply unsettled by the scenes of public revelry and excess. Men and women laugh and embrace openly in the streets, their joy clashing with her mood. She asserts firmly that such a place has no right to exist in her father's empire. Shooter confirms that their plan to raid the district is underway, her expression resolute. An older official with them voices concerns, questioning the wisdom of their strategy. He argues that despite its flaws, the district provides women with a sense of independence. A lecherous man laughs heartily with one of the women from the district. Ricolette vehemently opposes allowing a place where women are compelled to sell their bodies. Shooter wholeheartedly agrees, insisting that such a vile place must be eliminated. Shooter reassures her mistress that her concern for public morals is entirely warranted. A man named Shuda reports to Ricolette, confirming her worries about public disturbances. Ricolette gazes at the street, genuinely thanking Shuda for his support. Linos, gripping a note, realizes he's lost and needs to make a right turn. Recognition dawns on him, and his face lights up with a broad, joyful smile. Gon, his fox companion, eagerly points out their destination, the Dark Company. A mother and her child stand silhouetted in front of the new storefront. Lenos excitedly plans to place a sign in the reception window on the first floor. The interior features luxurious decor, including a grand chandelier and shelves filled with books. He decides the roomy second floor will be their primary office space. Linos lays out his business strategy, which covers protection, training, and various tasks. Gon expresses optimism for a successful venture, and Lena nods in agreement. Linus peers out the window, suddenly quiet, captivated by something below. Gon inquires if Linos is a fox, to which he playfully confirms. Linos clasps his hands together, offering a prayer for prosperity to the fox deity. A piercing scream from outside disrupts the calm, startling Linus. He realizes the chaos is unfolding alarmingly close to their new place. In the street, a couple whispers about soldiers stirring up trouble again. Linus watches the scene, thinking it's a charming town despite the turmoil. From her carriage, Ricolette observes with steely determination, ready to step in. A woman is taken into custody, shouting her innocence while a man hurls insults. A soldier bellows at the crowd, accusing them of disturbing the peace. A brothel madam smirks, recognizing some of her regulars among the officials. One of Ricolette's knights declares the brothels are to be shut down by royal order. The soldiers react with a mix of embarrassment and anger at Linos's remarks. Lino steps out from the crowd, calmly urging the soldiers to hold on. Ricolette's expression shifts to surprise at this unexpected intervention. He confidently tells the official that there's a much easier way to handle this. The knight dismisses him, curtly instructing him to mind his words. Judah suggests Ricolette retreat to the carriage for her own safety. Lino explains that if customers stop coming, the shops will inevitably close. Shooter tells Ricolette that the shops persist solely due to demand. She realizes he's implying they should seek alternative jobs for the women. Lino directly confronts the soldiers, asking if they'll cease being customers. A group of soldiers, led by a man with a mustache, looks flustered by the accusation. Furious, the lead soldier raises his fist, shouting an insult at the young man. His attack is abruptly halted, his arm caught in an unexpectedly strong grip. Linus issues a chilling warning, stating their bodies will be next to break. The sweating, defeated soldiers are commanded to retreat quickly from the scene. Watching their exit, Linus thinks Ricolette's political tactics are just as he'd heard. The women he defended celebrate around him, expressing gratitude for his help. In a private chamber, the older official grumbles about the troublesome young man. He comments to Ricolette and Shooter that Linos is quite the intriguing character. Shooter confidently assures Ricolette that the public will eventually grasp her noble intentions. Ricolette, looking troubled and uncertain, quietly agrees with her assessment of the situation. On a city street, a line of people has formed, drawing curious stares. Two women note that the line is for the new Barrier Master Shop, known for its excellent reputation. Inside, the fox-like familiar Gon cheerfully holds up a clipboard for a waiting customer. Lino professionally presents a detailed quote for a caravan escort to his clients. His unicorn companion Irimo even plays gently with a customer's child. A satisfied client stops by, expressing gratitude for a job well done previously. Linus returns the thanks, humbly stating that the client helped him too. As a token of appreciation, the client presents a basket filled with fresh bread from his shop. Lenos and Gon receive the gift, their smiles radiating warmth and gratitude. Later, they savor the bread, with Gon getting a bit too enthusiastic about the feast. Their tranquil meal is abruptly disrupted by a commanding presence at the counter. A massive armored catman bellows, demanding to know the location of the Barrier Master Shop. He angrily questions why a hero like him has to run such errands. Lenos playfully mocks the furious hero for being a cat on two legs. Willis, the hero, is furious about being assigned such a trivial task. With a calm smile, Linus inquires of the rude catman, asking about his business. In a final outburst of frustration, the hero thrusts a document into Linos's hands. Linus scans the ornate invitation, requesting the Barrier Master to join a party. A close-up reveals a startling fact. Linos is the former Great Demon King. He looks up, a mocking grin on his face, politely refusing the hero's request. The hero slams the door behind him, shouting that he'll find someone else. Lino pretends not to know the hero's identity, leaving his companions puzzled. In a room lined with books, a young man chuckles nervously about a troublesome woman in the brothel district. His demeanor shifts to serious as he recalls the soldiers acted on the first princess's orders, seeking his companion's thoughts on her. The older man and a woman share a contemplative glance, questioning if they are genuinely being asked about the future monarch. The woman probes into the young man's academic interests, asking why he would involve himself in such matters instead of serving his lord. Lost in contemplation, the man notes that since a certain incident, surveillance has intensified, vowing to remember that name. He resolves to gather more information and plans to consult the Prime Minister again, a thought that elicits laughter from his companion. A long-haired blonde woman, Ricolette, stands by a large window, her expression filled with deep concern. She ponders the recent disruption caused by a nuisance in the brothel district, admitting it was a solution she couldn't have imagined. Staring at the castle, she reaffirms her determination to study harder to be of greater help to her father. Her face softens with sorrow as she closes her eyes, whispering her father's name as a memory begins to resurface. The scene shifts back to a much younger Ricolette, clutching a doll in a garden alongside her maid. In the memory, she observes her parents and older brother preparing to depart, calling out to them. Little Ricolette asks her parents where they are headed, begging them to let her join. Her regal father and veiled mother glance back at her, their expressions cold and devoid of warmth. A woman in a nun's habit steps in front of Ricolette, blocking her way to her parents. Her small hand reaches out in hope toward her departing family, but finds only empty space. The nun gently informs the heartbroken girl that it's time to play, explaining her parents are simply busy. Young Ricolette wonders why she is treated so coldly, questioning if she can receive kindness like her brother, the future king. A firm resolve forms in her mind to become useful to her brother, aspiring to be like him. A close-up captures her determined eyes as she takes her mother's hand, solidifying her commitment. The path ahead becomes clear as she sits with a book, contemplating the offer of a home tutor. A dark-haired woman introduces herself as Kuru Mifaru, her new teacher, as Ricolette calls out to her. Brimming with youthful enthusiasm, Ricolette tells her new tutor that there are countless things she wishes to learn. Kudamafaru smiles warmly, impressed by Ricolette's spirit, addressing her with respect. Ricolette beams, a determined blush on her cheeks as she pledges to give her studies her all. Her tutor remarks on how diligent Ricolette is, almost painfully so for someone her age. Kuruma Faru leans over the younger Ricolette, assuring her that she will surely excel as they study together. The young princess's bandaged fingers grip a quill, writing fervently with the singular aim of being useful. Her eyes are wide with fatigue and unwavering determination, a single tear escaping from the strain. She rubs her weary eyes, pushing through exhaustion as she continues to read her book. Her tutor guides her through a challenging text, explaining that if she perseveres, success is certain. Studying late into the night, Ricolette's face is illuminated by a solitary candle, her determination unwavering. The adult Ricolette stands in a garden, her expression weary as she touches her face, bracing for the challenges ahead. In a grand hall, a fair-haired woman looks alarmed as she overhears two men discussing a wise candidate to support the next emperor. A courtier whispers to a nobleman about the princess's popularity and common knowledge. Ricolette's expression twists in pain. She believes retainers should not overstep their bounds. She contemplates a court where nobles are valued solely for their utility. An advisor warns that the empress's choices might jeopardize the king's authority. Horror grips her as she realizes her father's deep worries. Despair washes over her. She feels inadequate in her efforts. In her study, she crumples, crying out for the unattainable perfection. Desperate for guidance, she clings to her tutor, pleading for more lessons. Her face contorts in anguish as she begs for further instruction. Kuro Mafaro, her tutor, wraps her in an embrace, offering solace. The tutor emphasizes that Ricolette must now learn through experience, not just theory. Kuro Mafaro hints at someone special he wants the princess to meet. A dashing knight with piercing eyes formally presents himself as Shuda. The tutor endorses Shuda, confident he will greatly assist the princess. He gently grasps Ricolette's hand, catching her off guard. With empathy in his gaze, he acknowledges the pain of her circumstances. He reassures her that her hard work will eventually bear fruit. Ricolette meets his gaze, a blend of shock and vulnerability in her eyes. Kneeling, he requests that she place her trust in him. He makes a bold promise, declaring himself her steadfast ally. His vow weighs heavily on her. She briefly closes her eyes. Finally, her emotional dam bursts, and tears of relief flow freely. Her loyal retainers embrace her, providing comfort as she weeps. Later, Ricolette questions the Empress's recent bold political maneuvers. She expresses her frustration over the Empress hiring retainers without royal consent. With concern etched on her face, she asks Shuda if her new aggressive approach is wise. Kudamafar voices her worries about Ricolette's new strategies in trust and reliance. Ricolette fears her actions will only inflict more pain on her father. Shuda reminds her that her delicate position will likely attract criticism. He argues that all she has learned will benefit the Emperor and the Empire. He confidently assures her that a day will come when her loyalty is recognized. Shuda reaffirms his steadfast support, just as he did upon their first meeting. Ricolette listens, her demeanor somber, yet she finds a flicker of hope in his words. A cherished memory surfaces of her smiling parents, calling her essential and expressing gratitude. In the present, a single tear rolls down the princess's cheek as a maid calls her. She quickly wipes her face, concealing her sorrow upon hearing Shuta has arrived. Regaining her composure, she announces her arrival, moving toward the waiting maid. Meanwhile, a young man named Linus looks up, startled by what he sees. He stands before a quaint, traditional Japanese shrine, puzzled by its sudden appearance. From a doorway, he calls out to his small, white fox-like companion, who is missing. Gon appears, confirming that the shrine has always been in the back garden, holding a smaller plush version. Linus holds up a piece of cloth, calling out Gon's name with a grin. The plush creature in Gon's arms begins to shake, its face twisting into a horrifying, ghostly form. Linus recoils in shock, shouting at the creature for its terrifying expression. He calmly inquires if Gon knows anything about the mysterious shrine that has appeared. Gon explains that as a divine white fox, it must perform a ritual there. The creature elaborates that it requires an examination from the great Ohisama every 3 years. Linus asks about Ohisama, and Gon explains she leads the white foxes. He gently reassures the trembling Gong, promising to always be its companion. The ghostly creature shakes violently again, and Linus pleads with it to stop making that face. Linus's pet is gone, reflecting on how much his companion aids him with work and deciphering curses. He comforts the creature, assuring it that all is well and that he will assist. Overwhelmed by fear, Gon becomes a mere quivering ball of fur. Lena lies despondently on the ground, telling the now purring Gon not to get too comfortable. Gon suddenly erupts in anger, telling Lenos it was only worried when he wasn't paying attention. The fox nudges him insistently, seeming to reprimand him for his earlier indifference. Gon licks Lenos' face as he shuts his eyes, exasperated by the creature's mood swings. The fox scolds him for goofing off while it was so anxious about him. Lenos decides to join Gon on this mission, eager to finish the unpleasant task. Gwon's eyes light up with pure joy and excitement at his master's choice. The creature jumps into Lenos' arms, affectionately calling him master. Lino muses that it would be wise to bring a gift along. He presents a beautifully arranged box of inner azushi and fried tofu as a considerate offering. With Gon resting on his shoulder, Lenos wonders how they will reach Ohisama. Gon reassures him that all will be well as they near a grand, sacred torii gate. Lino stands in awe, feeling as though he's been instantly transported back to Japan. A massive gate creaks open, revealing a young man accompanied by his fox. Two fox-like figures in formal kimonos announce they have been waiting to guide him. As he follows them, the young man wonders if all animals here can talk, while his own trembles. Their path leads them to a magnificent, sprawling traditional estate. Inside a vast hall, he and his familiar kneel before two imposing, multi-tailed guardians. The masked figures instruct him to wait for Ohisama's arrival. With a thunderous bark, one guardian orders him to bow down immediately. An overwhelming force slams him face first onto the tatami mat. He gasps in shock, his mind spinning from the sudden display of authority. A cold sweat breaks out on his skin as he shakes uncontrollably with fear. A deep voice commands him to raise his head, and he obeys hesitantly. He is met with the sight of a colossal multi-tailed white fox spirit. The young man and his tiny companion seem insignificant before the divine being. Stunned, he can only stammer about the spirit's incredible size. A cheerful girl with cat ears appears, confirming that this is indeed Ohisama. The young man formally introduces himself as Lenos from the Barsum Dark House. The girl Bursum apologizes for her sudden intrusion as a fellow traveler. The great fox spirit acknowledges that it is aware of Lenos' situation. It states that Lenos was the one who aided it when it was cursed and weak. Taken aback by its words, Lenos holds his trembling fox companion closer. He sincerely explains that being in its presence gives him strength, despite his fear. The great spirit gazes down, listening closely to his heartfelt words. Bursum, surprised by his sincerity, asks if he truly means what he just expressed. With a bright, determined look, he insists his words come from the heart. Remembering his purpose, he presents a gift box to shift the topic. He explains that he has brought a souvenir as a sign of respect for Ohisama. A wolf attendant eyes the box, questioning what this souvenir is. He opens the gift, revealing glistening pieces of fried tofu. The wolf attendant's eyes widen with delight at the sight of the offering. Lino explains it is a human delicacy traditionally offered to fox deities. The two large wolf attendants devour the tofu with unrestrained joy. One declares it delicious, while the other insists he should bring this offering regularly. The Great Spirit states that while the offering is good, something more is required. A white fox creature with swirling markings on its head sighs softly and murmurs thoughtfully. A contemplative Linos holds his fox companion, both murmuring in reflection. The wolf attendant beams with joy, proclaiming the food is absolutely delightful. The other attendant concurs that it's a straightforward request, but there's a catch. With a fierce glare, the attendant instructs Lena to deliver these offerings regularly. The abrupt and forceful demand leaves Lino utterly bewildered and speechless. His small companion, now absent, timidly asks if he can stay since Lenos has been present. In return for the tasty food, the other wolf attendant coolly grants the request. The Great Spirit interrupts, signaling the start of a more serious discussion. With a knowing grin, Linus realizes that his true essence has been fully recognized. The Great Spirit discloses that Lenos became a demon lord by slaying countless humans. Lino listens, his face reflecting shock as he acknowledges the harsh truth. His sudden surge in magical power stemmed from absorbing their experiences. The spirit firmly cautions him to never wield this immense power for malevolent purposes. With determination, Lino vows to heed the Great Spirit's counsel. Pleased with his response, the spirit calmly accepts his promise. The spirit mentions that while the offering was satisfactory, something more is needed. Taken aback, Leno inquires what else is required for Gon to remain with him. He is informed that he will receive the powers of divine protection and exorcism. The spirit emphasizes that balance is essential in all things. Exorcism will facilitate communication with other tribes, while protection allows him to share his strength. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Linos expresses his sincere appreciation for the gift. A majestic unicorn appears, ready to explain the intricacies of his newfound power. The Great Spirit appears satisfied, encouraging him to embrace this new understanding. One of the wolf attendants gives a final gruff reminder about the offerings. Lanos is still reeling from the unexpected turn of events, completely confused. With a powerful thud of its paw, the Great Spirit announces its departure. The force of its exit sends Lino tumbling out of the shrine grounds. He lands in a heap, with a tearful Gong clinging to him, having returned to the estate. Gon weeps with joy, pledging to follow his master for life, happy to have escaped emotion. Later, the wolf attendants remark that Ohisama has developed quite an affection for Lino. In his shop, Linus is taken aback by an unexpected visitor. In night name, Siono urgently informs him that the Prime Minister has called for him. Siono greets Linos, acknowledging that it's been a while since their last encounter. Lena apologizes for the disarray in his shop, flustered by the sudden important guest. He inquires with Cono about what the urgent matter could possibly entail. Siono, however, seems at a loss for words to clarify the situation. His demeanor shifts to one of serious urgency, insisting they must head to the castle immediately. Lino forces a smile, sensing trouble but agreeing to leave right away. They arrive at a grand castle adorned with countless spires and towers. The elderly Prime Minister greets Linos with an unexpectedly warm welcome. His expression then twists into one of cold fury as he demands Linus eliminate someone. He asks if Linos has figured out that an insolent individual has shown up. Realizing his mistake, the Prime Minister rephrases his order with a weary sigh. He requests Lenos to escort a specific royal to the border, much to Linos' astonishment. The Prime Minister's expression darkens as he continues his explanation. He reveals that a self-proclaimed hero, a cat person, was captured during a demon subjugation. This cat person is actually the prince of the Cat Beastman Nation. Linos and Gon are both taken aback, realizing this is the same so-called hero from earlier. The minister smugly explains that this is all a grand act for his nation. He adds that the prince's nation has demanded his return from Hilda to the Empire. Linos wryly observes that this has already turned into quite the ordeal. The minister reveals that the prince went on a wild spree while his gear was taken. He then cries out that the first imperial princess, Ricolette, has ruined his scheme. He sinks into despair, lamenting his helplessness against her father's power. Lino points down, cutting through the minister's pathetic display. The minister aimed to use the prince to spark an incident that would tarnish the empire's image. Lino coolly figures out that the minister secretly wanted him to eliminate the prince. He questions why the minister didn't just employ the empire's knights for the job. The minister insists that knights can't escort a royal they've just insulted. Linus accepts the troublesome task, asking the minister to keep an eye on his shop. As they depart, Linus inquires about how the minister's business is faring. he spots a graceful blonde woman approaching, accompanied by her attendant. A breathtakingly beautiful and regal woman with flowing blonde hair stands before them. Lannis glances back at her, his demeanor calm and collected. Princess Ricolette looks at him and asks what he desires. He appears surprised by her straightforwardness, holding a document that identifies her. His eyes widen as the full realization of her identity hits him. Ricolette gazes back, recognizing him as the famed barrier mage. Bowing his head, Leonos expresses his apologies for his earlier rudeness. He bluntly states that she doesn't owe him anything. She is the renowned barrier mage, not her subordinate or the prime minister. He adds that he won't offer her anything in return, and she should honor those she truly respects. Ricolette snaps back, saying she doesn't need such an attitude from a prince. Leonos seems to grasp her point, while the minister notes this is just her nature. The source of the minister and princess concern is unveiled. Ricolette muses that his principles clash with those of the nobility, wishing for a different time. Later, a guard with a torch guides Lino down a stone corridor. The guard cautions him to tread carefully as they near the prison cell. Inside, the cat prince Khan erupts in fury upon recognizing the rude barrier mage. Linus informs him that he will be watching over him during his exile. Khan angrily questions if Lena believes the hero will forgive this affront. Lino calmly counters that Khan is the one who brought this upon himself. Seizing Khan by the scruff, he tells him to reflect on his actions during the journey. Soon, they are airborne, with Lenos riding his winged steed, Iremo. He instructs Iremo to land them near the border, and the creature complies. Lenos smiles, feeling a deep gratitude for his ability to converse with animals. Khan wails from the wagon, questioning why he's being exiled when his powers are needed. Lino nonchalantly reveals that he himself is the great demon lord. Khan puffs up his cheeks, believing a true hero should have seen through him. Leno scoffs at his self-proclaimed hero status, asking what gives him that right. He questions if Khan has done anything to earn recognition as a hero from others. Confounded, Khan looks down in shame, unable to respond. Leno simply tells him to observe what he is about to do. With a focused gesture, he prepares to unleash a formidable spell. A colossal crystalline barrier shatters before them, fueled by his power. He tells Khan that without this level of strength, subjugation is unattainable. Khan stares in awe, realizing that Linus's power is something entirely different. He quietly admits that he recognizes the name Willis. Later, inside the wagon, Lena notes they are losing altitude and nearing the border. They gaze out over a dark, foreboding forest valley below. A startled Linus holds a cloaked cat creature, wondering if someone has arrived. An elderly, noble feline named Willis glares down with fierce disapproval. The younger cat, Khan, spots Willis and shouts that he has come for him. With a furious roar, Willis lunges, hurling insults at the foolish former Prince Khan. Willis angrily recounts Khan's offenses, stealing treasure and fleeing without royal consent. With a pained look, Willis confesses that he too had to escape his homeland. Linus holds the small cloaked figure who gazes ahead with a serious expression. Khan turns to Linus, the barrier mage, seeking advice on his next move. Linus ponders the question, a bead of sweat trickling down his brow. A memory of his master's guidance surfaces, suggesting he start anew as a man. Linus encourages Khan to travel, meet new people, and explore the world. Willis urges Khan to do something worthy of the concern shown by others. A flustered Khan reluctantly agrees to heed the advice, feigning inconvenience. Linus presents a large backpack, explaining it's a farewell gift for his journey. Khan's eyes brighten as he spots a tempting spread of food nearby. Beneath a starry sky, Khan waves a cheerful farewell as he and Willis part ways. Linus finds himself back at a grand mansion, his temporary residence. Completely exhausted, he collapses onto a plush bed, drained despite not using magic. Upon waking, Linus discovers his familiar is missing and asks if anything occurred. Gon cheerfully reports that everything remained utterly peaceful during his slumber. A sudden powerful rumble shakes the room, startling both Linus and Gon. Now upright, Linus questions the origin of the intense ground shaking. Peering out at a dark forest, he notes this is the strongest tremor he's felt. He spots the disturbance, realizing it's at the edge of a magical barrier. Through his sight, he observes a horde of monstrous creatures assaulting the boundary. He urgently instructs his winged unicorn Iremo to land them nearby. Upon landing, he orders Iremo and God to conceal themselves for safety. He watches as the supposedly unbreakable barrier crumbles under the monster onslaught. Two massive reptilian beasts emerge from the breach, their presence daunting. The barrier finally collapses completely with a thunderous, explosive sound. A wild grin spreads across Linus's face as he realizes the barrier has fallen. He readies himself for battle, determining that fire and lightning magic are too perilous here. The monsters spot him, declaring that encountering them is his unfortunate fate. One of the creatures lunges forward, roaring for him to vanish. Linus's eyes narrow with focus as he prepares to counter their attack. He declares his intention to quench the monster's assault with water magic. A powerful vortex of water swirls around him as he braces for the impact. With a crazed, joyful grin, Linus unleashes his power in a flurry of motion. The monsters panic, screaming for retreat from this unknown, fearsome adversary. Standing amidst the aftermath, Linus wonders if he has driven them all away. Gon nuzzles his cheek as Linus gazes into the dark, silent forest. He muses that he shouldn't eliminate too many, a sly smile creeping onto his face. Linus pushes through the thick underbrush, searching for any stragglers. He calls out, asking if any of the previous monsters are still around. He discovers a small horned child cowering in fear, pleading for him to leave. Linus gasps in shock, realizing he has found a child, not a monster. The frightened girl shrinks back, begging him not to approach any closer. Her composure crumbles as she breaks down, wailing for her mother. Linus holds the sobbing child, completely unsure of how to respond. He brings the lost girl back to the safety of his grand mansion. The girl, now calm, introduces herself as Princess Barris of the Burial Clan. Linus stands in disbelief, realizing the creature he battled was actually a princess. Her face shifts to one of profound shame as she reflects on her recent deeds. Barris bows deeply in apology, her forehead striking the ground. Linus comforts her, assuring her of his lack of anger, his demeanor calm and inquisitive. Barris glances up, taken aback by his gentle and compassionate response. He inquires about the motive behind her clan's assault on the Empire. With sorrow, she reveals it stems from her father, the will of the demon lords. Her father declared that the next king would be the one who conquers the demons. Linus questions whether she feels discontent about her arranged marriage. Barris puffs out her cheeks in annoyance, irritated by his probing. He presses on, asking if her father prioritizes the nation over her happiness. Barris fiercely rejects this notion, her expression suddenly sharp and defensive. In a flashback, a younger Barris confronts her father, demanding answers. Her father, the demon lord, greets her warmly, saying he was just about to summon her. He acknowledges her as a scholar, not a fighter, predicting the quest's failure. He affectionately pats her head, his face radiating paternal warmth. The demon lord explains that this path aligns better with her true nature. Confused, young Barris asks why he would set her up for inevitable failure. Her father reveals his true intention, for her to be a witness and observer. He gazes at her knowingly, trusting his wise daughter to grasp his plan. A realization washes over her as she whispers a single word. She comprehends that failure means her long-awaited freedom. Yet she questions if this is truly acceptable, looking at her father with doubt. Her father meets her gaze with a gentle, loving smile. He explains that the Belial throne values strength far more than lineage. In a memory, he reveals the harsh political landscape of their court. Barris recalls her brutish, ambitious uncle, unease washing over her. Her uncle proclaims he won't accept a weaker successor, his gaze menacing. He caresses her face, calling her his adorable Barris with a chilling undertone. Her father embraces her, wishing for her to soar freely. Back in the present, Barris quietly weeps at the bittersweet recollection. She sobs that he was a wonderful father as Linus gently comforts her. Linus asks if her uncle is currently ruling in her absence. She explains her uncle is loud, but not one to invade without cause. Linus smiles in relief, glad to have shed the title of Demon Lord. Barris is taken aback, suddenly realizing he was a former Demon Lord. Linus clarifies he was merely a regular human serving as a barrier master. Errol, the elven woman, listens in silence to his startling revelation. He asks Barris what her plans are now that she has gained her freedom. Barris's face brightens, surprised by the unexpected inquiry. Linus smiles, genuinely curious about her aspirations for the future. He asks Barris what she envisions for herself moving forward. Her eyes gleam as she expresses her desire to travel and meet new faces. Her enthusiasm dims as she realizes she lacks funds for a journey. Linus reassures her, offering a room and work at his place. He muses that tying her down might not be the best choice. Barris blushes, contemplating his generous and unexpected proposal. He asks if she can wield magic with a sword, to which she affirms. Lennis finds her response satisfactory and affectionately nuzzles his cheek. The horned girl, Barris, earnestly recalls Linus's role as a barrier master. He hints that she might assist him while gradually discovering the world. Lino grants her the option to leave once she can support herself. With a formal smile, he inquires if she will help him with his tasks. Flushed and overwhelmed, she gazes at him, silently agreeing. In front of the grand mansion, Barris happily consents to his care. Gunn greets her warmly as Barris expresses concern for her new master. From behind, Barris is startled by flustered Lino, who admits his solitude. Barris announces her goal to learn cooking, recalling her father's advice. He looks back, taken aback by her sudden eagerness to acquire domestic skills. Linus comforts her, assuring that her talents will help her flourish anywhere. Filled with joy, she radiates a bright smile. In an opulent chamber, a fatigued blonde woman rests in her bed. Her weary eyes show the toll of yet another restless night. She fears that soon she might completely lose her ability to sleep. A maid enters announcing the princess is awake. The princess forces a smile, claiming she is fine despite her pale complexion. Her maid, Quina, asks if she will genuinely attend the meeting. The princess rejects the notion that a woman cannot take part. She believes there are urgent issues only she can address. Quina voices her worries about the princess's commitment to the empire. The princess smiles appreciatively as Quina applies blush to her cheeks. Quina informs her that her father's health is deteriorating. A maid rushes in, revealing the emperor chose alcohol over food. Ricolette steadies herself, preparing for the challenging council meeting ahead. The formidable emperor stands ready, his expression serious and determined. He is about to determine the future of the nation's defense. This meeting is crucial, likely to influence the empire's destiny. The anxious crown Prince Heath casts nervous glances around the room. The first imperial princess, Ricolette, observes with intense focus. The emperor, flanked by his children, announces the council is in session. Prince Villas, second in line, remains calm and inscrutable. A bald, bespectacled prime minister begins to present his formal report. He prepares to contrast the new intelligence with earlier findings. Council members erupt into chaos, shouting disjointed reports. They urgently discuss a recent demon assault near the capital. The room devolves into a chaotic uproar of fear and debate. One man reports hearing of a demon attack close to the border. The emperor smirks, revealing he has already received a report. He dismisses the demon's link to the main horde as flimsy. He has already commanded that the situation be managed and reported. Breathing heavily, he appears to be grappling with his own agitation. He turns to Ricolette, coldly questioning why she is staring at him. He scornfully asks why Heath is oblivious to these developments. The emperor ridicules Heath for drinking wine to maintain composure. His piercing gaze reveals no hint of an impending invasion. He reminds his frightened son that he is the future emperor. The emperor leans closer, demanding to know what Heath was about to say. The prince stands frozen in fear, unable to utter a word. The prime minister attempts to redirect the discussion to national defense taxes. The emperor scoffs, declaring they will seize what they require by force. Ricolette watches in shock, her brother equally taken aback. With a sharp bang, she slams her palm onto the table. She yells her disagreement at her father's oppressive decree. The emperor glares at her, his voice a menacing growl. He coldly warns her not to disrupt the proceedings. Ricolette stares back, hurt and stunned by his order. Prince Villas discloses that he has been liaising with the military. Ricolette attempts to object, but her father cuts her off. The emperor claims he is acting on intel from someone named Juka. He stands, asserting that only he can make this call. He questions his sons if they grasp that he alone can ensure stability. He resolves not to let the nation descend into disorder. With fierce determination, he proclaims he must safeguard the populace. He faces Ricolette, asking if she comprehends her role. She ponders whether he still harbors any paternal feelings for her. He asserts that her mere attendance at the meeting is a concession. He declares her existence has become too perilous for the empire. With chilling finality, he commands her to exit the council. Heartbroken, she can only murmur his name in disbelief. He questions if she is defying a direct imperial command. Defeated, she lowers her head and offers an apology. She turns and rushes out of the grand hall in shame. As she departs, she covers her face to muffle her sobs. The scene shifts away from the stifling castle. Far below, the lively streets of the town present a stark contrast. The cheerful horn girl, Barris, pleads with Lino to buy her a scarf. Lino struggles under a pile of packages, asking if she's finished. Barris gives a thumbs up, justifying the expenses for their guild. He glances at a piece of clothing she hands him, puzzled. A blonde elf, Errol, observes that Leno seems lost in thought. He proposes they ditch shopping and check out a cafe he knows. Barris beams, enthusiastically endorsing the new plan. They arrive only to find the restaurant's doors unexpectedly shut. Linus is baffled, certain it should be open at this time. The proprietress peeks out, recognizing Lena with a smile. She apologizes, explaining they are closed due to some disturbance. Her face brightens suddenly as she recalls the reason. She excitedly tells Linus that the slave market has come to town. She explains it's due to a significant labor shortage in the region. She mentions some attractive children are for sale who could be useful. The proprietress suggests he might score a good deal there. The mention of slavery stirs a painful memory for Linus. Barris, sensing his sudden shift in mood, asks what's wrong. He forces a smile, brushing off her concern with a stutter. He thoughtfully rests a hand on his chin, a new idea forming. With quiet determination, he declares they are heading to the slave market. He and Barris dash through the streets, their faces serious. Barris asks if Linus is a slave, which he quickly denies. His eyes blaze with intent as he clarifies he is a former slave. Haunted by his past, a young man reflects on his days as a slave. This recollection strengthens his determination to act and assist others. He and his friends rush down a bustling street, urgency driving their pace. Barris, the girl accompanying him, suddenly spots a familiar face in an archway. The innkeeper inquires if they too are there to buy a slave. Linos, the young man, is taken aback by her straightforward question. Within a grand hall, an auctioneer announces a steep price for a man in chains. The innkeeper clarifies the bidding process to a confused Lanus. He notes that only the criminal slaves remain available for purchase. The woman describes the bleak fate awaiting these criminals, forced into grueling labor. Errol, his elf-like companion, fears what will happen if no one bids on them. The innkeeper discloses the harsh reality that most unsold slaves are simply discarded. Errol gasps the dreadful word in horror, the gravity of their situation evident. She leans closer, reminding Linos that stopping this is their purpose. Barris's resolute smile reflects her full support for their cause. The last slave of the day is a horned woman, starting at a bid of 5,000 G. The crowd watches with indifference, their expressions unreadable. Lennis inquires about the girl currently being auctioned. The innkeeper whispers that the girl is cursed, explaining her lack of buyers. On stage, the horned woman, Mariah's, displays a profound, resigned sadness. The innkeeper elaborates that the curse is severe, leading to her ostracism. In desperation, the auctioneer lowers the price to just 500 guineas, pleading for bids. With a confident grin, Linus raises his bidding paddle high. He confidently states he will buy her at this rock-bottom price. As he raises his paddle, a sudden uproar outside catches him off guard. A knight in full armor bursts in, demanding the market's immediate closure. The auctioneer is stunned as Linos realizes his winning bid has been voided. After the chaos, a door to a private room swings open, the turmoil fading. Barris expresses her astonishment at how abruptly the Imperial soldiers arrived. The innkeeper identifies the soldiers as agents of Empress Ricolette, who ruined everything. She sighs, mourning the loss of a reliable source of cheap labor. However, Lennis smiles with relief, pleased they managed to finalize their deal. Marius, now his property, gazes on with a confused and uncertain look. As the chaos settles, the auctioneer formally allows one transaction to proceed. The young buyer, Linus, holds a peculiar vial containing a single potent drop. He turns to the horned woman, Marius, instructing her to extend her hand. Linus clarifies that this contract is sealed with blood, not a curse. A glowing magical seal appears on her hand as the drop touches her skin. The auctioneer beams, announcing that the contract has been successfully finalized. Linus immediately asks if there's a way to dissolve the contract he just made. The shocked auctioneer questions whether Linus can't break it himself. Linus clarifies if her status as a criminal slave can be reversed. Marius watches in disbelief, questioning his desire to free a criminal. The flustered official admits it's possible, but quite challenging. He explains it requires either the master's death or consent from a divine officer. Linos confirms he is indeed inquiring about the divine officer's consent. The official cautions that it's nearly impossible, as her crimes must be acknowledged. Marius interjects, admitting she poisoned many, making it unthinkable. The anxious auctioneer hurries away, urging Linos to be extremely cautious with her. A small sound of surprise escapes Marius as someone new approaches. The girl with twin tails reassures her that the frightening man has now departed. Linos and his friends greet Marius, inquiring about her name now that she's part of their group. He questions if she had a name prior to her enslavement. After a moment of reflection, she softly shares the name May. Lena thoughtfully elaborates on her idea, naming her Marius. His face lights up, delighted with the name he has chosen for her. His companions declare their hunger, suggesting a trip to their favorite eatery. The twin-tailed girl eagerly agrees, brushing off the playful objections of the fox creatures. Inside the restaurant, Linos wonders why Marius is still standing apart from the table. She protests, stating that as a slave she cannot partake in a meal with them. Linos realizes his actions have likely attracted the Empress's attention. A regal blonde figure, Empress Ricoli, enters with a stern attendant by her side. Linos acknowledges that the command to close the market came from Ricolide. He voices his agreement that the act of buying people is inherently wrong. His expression sharpens as he ponders how the palace learned about the market. Ricolette's attendant grins, confessing to his mistress that he was the source of the information. A light-haired man smiles, contemplating the presence of military personnel in the city. A retainer informs Empress Ricolette about a significant new development. Upon hearing the news, her expression turns stern, filled with contempt. She expresses her revulsion at the very notion of purchasing people. Ricolette confronts Linos directly, pointing out that he just acquired the horned woman, Marius. Lena calmly meets her gaze, affirming that her observation is completely accurate. She explains her wish to liberate Marius, but her status as a criminal slave complicates matters. Linos's companion Barris gasps in shock at the term criminal slave. Ricolette clenches her fists, admitting how deeply disturbing she finds slavery. Lino agrees, adding that for a slave, even the act of breathing is frightening. His deep understanding of a slave's pain leaves Ricolette momentarily at a loss for words. With a sorrowful smile, Lino reveals that he too was once a slave. With the tense standoff concluded, Lino suggests they leave in the awaiting carriage. Inside, he gazes out of the window, reflecting that he doesn't disagree with the Empress's stance. Barris playfully jabs at him for being so serious, prompting a warm laugh from Lino. Marius stands awkwardly, apologizing for being a nuisance to them. Lennis reassures her not to fret and gently urges her to take a seat. He hands her a menu, assuring her that everything on it is delicious. Barris eagerly joins Marius, and they peruse the menu together. Marius timidly addresses Linos, her face reflecting a hesitant inquiry. She asks why he would show such kindness to a fallen criminal slave like herself. He explains that he was also a cursed slave, and her plight resonates with him. Ricolette, listening closely, inquires if the merchant mentioned any other specifics about her crime. Linus observes, sensing there's more to her story than what has been disclosed. At the mention of her past, Marius is suddenly overwhelmed with emotion, tears brimming. She covers her mouth, explaining through sobs that no one has ever listened before. Barris is taken aback by Marius's sudden and intense emotional eruption. Lennis comprehends her reaction, noting that the bustling restaurant is a fitting place for a private conversation. With a warm smile, he decides they should eat first before delving into serious matters. A cheerful waitress arrives, presenting a steaming platter of food at their table. Marius gazes at the warm dango, her face a picture of pure wonder and disbelief. Lino quietly tells Barris to let Marius enjoy the flavors of the food. Tears of joy flow down Marius's cheeks as she thanks them for the comforting meal. A young man and woman share a blissful moment, their fox companion grinning joyfully behind them. As Marius eats, Linos gently tells her that she can listen to him. He reassures her that he knows how to lift the curse, but liberating her from her status as a criminal slave will be challenging. Barris cheers, thrilled that with Marius as her new master, Linos will have her living with them. Lannis's demeanor shifts to serious as he explains that breaking the curse requires exploring her past. He gazes at her intently, questioning if she truly consents to him digging into her history. Marius looks down at her feet, quietly agreeing to his challenging condition. She lifts her head, her expression firm, affirming that she is fine with it. With a warm smile, Lino expresses gratitude for her trust and willingness to cooperate. He apologizes for broaching such a heavy subject before their meal, but she brushes off his concern. As Barris doodles, Linos makes one final crucial request of Marius. With genuine kindness, he urges her to try to forget her slave status and be open about her feelings. He acknowledges the difficulty of this, suggesting she can take her time. He pauses, contemplating the most vital message he wishes to convey. A memory of his own found family flashes in his mind as he continues. With a bright, wide grin, he states he simply wants her to be healthy and enjoy a long life. Barris cheers enthusiastically, welcoming her into their home. Surprised, Mirius inquires about their other companion, Irimo. With playful grins, Lino Sinbarris explains that their home is quite lively. The fox creature Gon excitedly announces that it's a talking fox with more to share. Barris proudly introduces herself as the former princess of the Burial Clan. Linus adds that Irimo is a rare unicorn Pegasus and a very friendly child. Marius is utterly astonished by the remarkable nature of her new companions while Barris laughs. The initial shot transitions to a small, shy laugh from Marius. Seated at a table, Mirai beams, expressing her excitement about being in their care. They arrive at an impressive mansion nestled in a lush, green landscape. Inside the grand foyer, Mariah gazes in awe as Linos tells her this is her new home. He gestures upstairs, offering her a choice between two vacant guest rooms. Barris cheerfully suggests they could share a room, a notion Mariah seems to appreciate. Lena explains he must head to the capital for supplies, thanking her for her assistance. He peeks around a corner, his demeanor shifting to a more serious tone. With a somber expression, he motions for Maria to take a seat in the formal room. Across the table, she meets his gaze with a tense, uncertain look. He asks her to inform him if there are any inaccuracies in her story about becoming a criminal slave. With a look of astonished gratitude, Marius conveys her appreciation for his kindness. Her expression shifts to deep sorrow as she confesses to having killed many people. Now liberated from her curse, she reveals her intention to live on without shame. Linos listens to her confession, his own face shadowed with empathy and pain. Covering his face, he admits to having endured a similarly crushing experience. He recalls being taught that sometimes one must live without shame for the sake of family. A memory of God imparting this lesson brings a faint, knowing smile to his lips. He then gently inquires if Marius has anyone significant in her life. While pouring tea, Mariah quietly reveals that her parents are no longer with her. A bead of sweat trickles down his face as Lino asks if her crime is connected to them. Marius confirms this, her tale beginning with a cherished memory of her loving parents. She remembers studying diligently, determined to eventually take over the family business. Her parents are depicted joyfully supporting her efforts as she learned their trade. She recalls her childhood as a happy, gentle, and fulfilling time spent with her family. Her narrative takes a dark turn as she recounts a terrible plague sweeping through her country. The disease was highly contagious and untreatable, leaving many dead in the streets. Facing national collapse, the king issued a desperate decree for a special remedy. Her pharmacist mother was assigned this task, working tirelessly day and night. Driven by her parents' urgent need, young Mariah ventured into the forest to gather ingredients. In this moment of desperation, she crossed paths with a mysterious magician cloaked in shadows. The magician approached, remarking on the rarity of someone foraging for herbs. Marius muses that her fate would have been altered had their meeting never occurred. He presented her with a stunningly rare herb, hinting it could hold the cure. Filled with wild hope, she accepted the stranger's offering and rushed home to her parents. Linus inquires whether such a rare herb can truly change so suddenly. Marius shakes his head sadly, dismissing that possibility. Peeking from behind, Linus speculates that the magician might have used illusion magic. She agrees, explaining that her parents would never have accepted an unfamiliar ingredient. Convinced they had found success, her parents proudly announced the new cure to the king. The herb was, in fact, a forbidden poison, its collection outlawed. Consequently, they were arrested for concocting a poison that claimed many lives. She reveals that the herb's appearance had changed, proving their efforts were an illusion. Lenos questions if there are no antidotes in her world, then wonders about her fate as a slave. Marius explains that her parents faced execution, but she was spared due to her age. As a result, she was thrust into servitude, becoming a court magician for the regime. With a pained look, she remembers being ordered to create whatever was demanded of her. Her forced labor included crafting sturdy weapons and developing perilous performance enhancers. Linos asks if she managed to complete these tasks, and she admits to only making partial progress. As the request became more intricate, she eventually hit the limits of her skills. Horror washes over her as she reveals the drugs were left incomplete. A memory flashes of a soldier's scream as she recounts the drug's horrific side effects. Despite the lethal risks, the unstable concoction was still administered to soldiers. Overcome with guilt, Maria cries out, horrified by the lives lost. Linos observes her breakdown, his face a mask of shock and deep concern. Marius explains that after this, she was too engulfed in guilt to continue her work. Linos pieces together the rest, concluding she was sold at a slave auction. With a downcast expression, Marius quietly affirms that this is indeed what transpired. He questions the rationale behind selling her, speculating it was a political maneuver. Marius looks up surprised, considering if they intended to place her in a harsh environment. He wonders if it was a plot to leak her dangerous research to foreign powers. She concedes that his theory seems plausible, a troubling realization dawning on her. Linos and his companion Gon appear thoughtful, contemplating the intricate conspiracy. Frustrated, he shakes his head, setting aside his theories for now. He admits he has no clue what their motives were and reassures her not to worry. Turning to Gon, Lino asks if it can break her curse. Gon eagerly agrees. He looks at Marius, assuring her that she didn't intentionally cause those deaths. He explains that she and her parents were manipulated by the cunning court magician. He reminds her that she recognized the danger and destroyed the incomplete drug. He believes that single act of defiance justifies breaking her curse. Lino acknowledges that her status as a criminal slave will persist, scratching his head. He fervently declares his desire to break her curse, granting her more choices in the future. His expression softens as he admits he simply wants to ease her burdens. He asks if she will heed his selfish request, her face one of shocked disbelief. Gon bluntly states her life can't possibly worsen, urging her to trust him. Linos extends both hands, gently assuring her he will break the curse. Marius gazes at his outstretched hands, a single tear of gratitude rolling down her cheek. Overcome with emotion, the horned woman tearfully agrees, gripping the hand that holds hers. Holding her hands, Renozu tells a flustered Maria that she doesn't need to hold on so tightly. A flustered Baris apologizes repeatedly, while Rhinosu and Gon exchange puzzled glances. Gon places its tiny paws into Rhinosa's hands, ready to initiate the ritual. A soft, ethereal glow surrounds Marias as she enters a tranquil state. Eyes shut, Marius displays pure relief as the curse finally dissipates. Barris cheers, declaring everything is fine now, while Marias expresses her sincere gratitude. Renosu turns to Gan, sensing something is amiss and inquiring about it. Gon reveals that although the curse is lifted, an odd lingering presence persists. It clarifies that its own strength isn't enough to confront this final remnant. Gon suggests they seek the powerful Ohi Masama, the princess, for assistance. Barisu apologizes for the extra hassle, but Renozu cheerfully admits he's intrigued. With a warm smile, Renoza proposes they all take a break for the day. Suddenly, Renosu and Marius look up in alarm, sensing an approaching threat. Renozu recognizes Irimo's frantic voice, puzzled by how it breached his barrier. He calls out to Bursu outside, who insists she's perfectly fine. Urgently peering outside, Renozu shouts for his Pegasus, Irimo. A large, cloaked figure with a smug grin appears, commenting on Marius still being alive. Marius gasps in horror, recognizing her former mentor, while Renosu demands to know their identity. The menacing, cat-like creature grumbles that their survival has caused significant trouble. Rhinosa's expression hardens with rage as he identifies the creature as Marius's captor. With a self-satisfied smirk, the creature confirms it was indeed the one who sold her. The creature, Porsehi, casually greets Marius, mentioning its plans have gone awry. A small rabbit-like attendant introduces its master, Portia High, from a powerful clan. Portia High explains that its clan's illusion magic complicates the fabric of reality. Renozu questions whether Porsehi was the one who coerced Marius into her dreadful tasks. Porsehi mockingly inquires if that's why Marius referred to it as sensei, twisting the knife. Marius looks away in shame, whispering about their discussions during their brief time together. Renozu places a reassuring hand on her shoulder, promising to tackle this troublesome issue. He provocatively suggests that Porsehi should impart some of its knowledge to him. Feigning fear, he extends a trembling hand, sarcastically calling her a keepsake. Porsehi snaps back, irritated by his insolence, declaring this is the true agony. A bulge forms on the back of Porsehi's hand as its composure finally shatters. Marius observes the tense exchange, her face filled with confusion and concern. Falling for the bait, Porseha yells in frustration, demanding to know his intentions. Rhinosa's demeanor shifts to serious as he questions why they used Maria's unfinished potion. Horsey High gleefully explains that eliminating people purifies the cursed items they create. They recount their scheme to forge an immortal army before Marius became obsolete. Rinozu presses on, asking why they chose to enslave her instead of simply killing her. Porchahai laughs cruelly, admitting they anticipated her demise and wanted one last use. Rinosu inquires what kind of use she could possibly have, trying to grasp the scheme. They reveal their ambition to sell her to an imperial noble for political gain. Rinosu questions how they could create something so monstrous. With manic delight, Porcehai wonders if he wouldn't also want to dominate the continent. Their anger escalates, blaming another man for thwarting their meticulously planned auction. Porcehi vows to take everything from Reno so Marius can be raised for sale. Marius looks up, dawning horror washing over her as she realizes Porcehai shouldn't know about the drug. The small attendant asks if this implies Marius was deceived into using the drug. Porceha leans in, mockingly asking if she genuinely didn't notice, and tells her to look. They inquire if she recognizes the figure in the vision they are about to reveal. A puff of smoke accompanies the illusion, unveiling a scene from the past. The vision depicts a kind hooded figure with a beautiful yet treacherous smile. In her recollection, a younger Marius receives a healing herb from a shadowy figure who assures her of its benefits. The figure's expression twists into a wild grin as it offers to share the herb. The realization of betrayal crashes down on Maria, and she releases a heart-wrenching scream. Persei glances at her, confirming their awareness of everything, astonished by her deceit. With dread, Mary's understands that her single act of defiance was utterly pointless. In tears, she questions if her foolishness means she'll just be sold off again. Porcehai unleashes a wave of dark energy, commanding it to obliterate the brats. Rinosu grunts, bracing himself against the full force of the onslaught. He conjures a radiant barrier, asking a stunned Marius if she's okay. Porcaihai steps through the barrier, pondering that even with protection, they're all doomed. Rinosu is taken aback as Porcehai appears behind him, mocking his futile attempts. He stumbles, incredulous that Porcehai managed to bypass his barrier. The attendant clarifies that its master is blending illusion magic with their assaults. Persei brushes him off as a nuisance, questioning if that's all he's capable of. They ponder the purpose of containment if he can't shatter their illusion. Rinocio wonders how they got through, suspecting it was an illusion spell. Horsehai reveals it was an expensive teleportation spell, highlighting their vulnerability to spatial magic. They announce their plan to siphon Rinozu's magic to stop Marius from escaping. Rinozu places his hands on the ground, initiating a potent counterspell. Porcehi sniffs the air, intrigued by the unfamiliar scent. They scoff, questioning if he's attempting a sleep spell, which is pointless against their clan. Rinosa smirks, apologizing for not living up to their expectations. The small attendant observes, a knowing sound escaping its lips. Porcehai's form begins to writhe and twist in agony. Massive, terrifying centipedes erupt from the ground, causing Porcecide to scream in fear. Renos calmly explains that they're deep in a forest teeming with creatures. He reveals that the scent he released is the preferred food of the forest's flesh-eating insects. He advises Marius to retreat before they become the insect's next meal. His vision clears, realizing the illusory flames have vanished and his mind is his own. Porcehai yells for the insects to stay away as they swarm without mercy. Marius can only witness the horrific scene, her face frozen in shock. Rinosu acknowledges that he too has a dirty way of fighting with magic. He gently reassures Marius not to blame herself excessively for what transpired. Marius gazes at him, tears brimming in her eyes, overwhelmed by his compassion. They stand over Porcehai's mangled remains as Rinozu inquires what's wrong. Porcehai, barely clinging to life, mutters that they were so certain of victory. With their final breath, they whisper Marius's name, attempting one last illusion. Rinozu grabs Marius, pulling her into a protective embrace, urging her to be cautious. The final spell fizzles out as Porcaia collapses, their body going limp. The one-sphered antagonist lies lifeless, a broken mass in the dirt. In the stillness that follows, Marius expresses her gratitude to Rinozu for vanquishing the insects. She quietly concurs with his view of the situation, her voice quivering. Rinozu gazes at her, softly murmuring her name in the silence. He assures her he won't ask her to forget what happened, knowing she likely can't. He proclaims that no one remains to make her unhappy or hinder her pursuit of joy. At the gravesite, he vows that he and their friends will assist her in finding happiness. A memory of her smiling parents surfaces, who believed she couldn't be happy without their peace. Marius looks up, her face reflecting deep, unspoken sorrow. Overcome by this act of kindness, tears of grief and gratitude flow down her cheeks. In a forest clearing, Renozu asks Mariasu if Persahai's sword isn't buried here as well. She shares that she forged the sword, carrying it due to its dangerous nature. The blade she unveils was taken before she could craft a sheath. It was made to enhance its power by absorbing magic, unsuitable for combat. Mariusu observes that the thief lacked a source of magic strong enough to wield it. Renos listens closely, his expression shifting to one of seriousness and contemplation. With fierce resolve, he grips the hilt of the unstable, potent sword. He insists on assisting, reassuring a worried Mariusu that he can manage the danger. Recalling being labeled a magic monster, he confidently asserts his vast power. With a warm grin, he promises not to let his friends vanish. Mariusu gazes up at him, her eyes wide as she quietly consents to his plan. Gripping the hilt, he channels his magic, startling Mary, who sits beside him. He senses a considerable portion of his magical energy flowing into the blade. Feeling the drain on her own magic, Mariusu winces and urges him to stop. Staring at the blade, she whispers in wonder that it has become stunning. Rhinos stares in disbelief as a radiant, intricate design emerges on the sword. He sheepishly admits he may have gone too far, asking her to steady him. As they walk together, she smiles, commenting on his seemingly boundless magic. He meets her gaze, stating that despite his power, something more exists. Renozu holds the sword alongside her, offering a prayer that it remains unused. Her gaze softens as she looks at him, agreeing with his sincere wish. He suggests they grab a bite, and she cheerfully admits she's hungry too. In a lively town with charming buildings, Renozu joyfully calls out to his friends. Barris encourages Mariasu to shop while Renoz reassures her that it's all good. The lively bearer tells a bashful Mariasu that she's been looking forward to this. Flustered and shy from the attention, Mariatsu buries her face in a fluffy scarf. Renozu gently reassures her that discussing her troubled past is unnecessary. With a kind smile, he reveals he knows she was a slave, just like him. His revelation catches her off guard, and Barisu warmly welcomes her to their group. Mariasu models a bold new outfit, feeling both shy and pleased with her appearance. Renosa and Gon give her an enthusiastic thumbs up, enjoying the spontaneous fashion show. Carrying their numerous purchases, he smiles as Mariatsu apologizes for the hassle. While cleaning the sword by a stream, he inquires if she needs anything else. In the end, Barris explains that the guest room's bed and pillow were inadequate. Mirius elaborates that her horns make sleeping in human beds challenging, needing extra pillows. An innkeeper presents them with a special bed designed for those with horns. With their shopping complete, Linos and his cheerful friends stroll through the market. The satisfied Mariah compliments Barris, saying the food is genuinely delicious. At a bustling butcher shop, the group places their usual order with the friendly owner. A mysterious cloaked figure watches the group, noting their lively shopping spree. With the meal finished, a clean plate is set down, accompanied by thanks for the food. At their table, Maris expresses gratitude to Barris for yet another delightful meal. A beaming Barris shares her joy, saying she loves hearing Mariah's daily praises. Marius explains with a joyful expression that the food tastes so good because it's authentic. An excited bearer promises there will be many more delicious meals for them to savor. At Lino's suggestion, a bashful but happy Maria agrees to try on new outfits. Lena smiles and asks Marias for her thoughts on the new clothes she's wearing. Striking a cheerful pose, Miris exclaims that her new athletic outfit is incredibly comfortable. She smiles gratefully, pleased she could choose clothes that allow for easy movement. By a stream, Linus explains he doesn't want a master-servant dynamic with them. He clarifies that he sees them as companions and equals instead. He wishes they will support one another, just like true friends ought to. Barris is taken aback when she sees Maria suddenly in tears. Overcome with happiness, Maria weeps joyfully, expressing her gratitude and delight. Barris jokingly accuses Lino of causing Marius's tears, asking if he's to blame. Now calm, Maria informs Lena she has a present for him once she's done washing. She reveals the finished sword and scabbard, though she thinks the design is plain. In their room, Linus notes that the sword seems to have transformed with his magic. Gripping the patterned blade, he feels a divine energy that sharpens its edge. Ferris stares at the sword, her eyes wide with awe and speechless wonder. Barris fears the sword might awaken a malevolent spirit, a thought Lenos ponders. He inquires if Maria felt anything off while crafting the weapon. Barris is taken aback, questioning whether he should wield such a powerful sword. Marius confidently asserts that as long as her intentions are clear, all will be well. A relieved Lino smiles softly, agreeing with her sincere and assured judgment. He proposes a trip to the capital for her research supplies, which surprises everyone. With a bright grin, the horned girl, Barris, tells a surprised Maria that she wants to shop in the capital too. Linos, with his fox familiar perched on his shoulder, is called Master by his eager friends. Gazing at Marius, Linus decides they will visit tomorrow to consult a powerful entity about the strange aura he feels. Recalling his mission, Lino reminds Gon not to forget souvenirs. Their journey leads them to a tranquil, traditional Japanese shrine, nestled in a thick bamboo grove. Lino explains the situation to Gon, who listens with a worried expression. Kneeling before a colossal fox spirit, Leno expresses his wish to uncover the truth about Marius. Lino cheerfully admits he doesn't grasp the Moya Moya either, which is why he sought help. The great fox spirit, Ohim-sama, emits a contemplative sound as it considers his request. With a powerful cry, the spirit begins its mystical assessment of the distant girl. A vision of a startled Marius appears, showcasing the spirit's power reaching her from afar. Lino grins widely, explaining he received the information through Gone as a medium. The spirit discloses that the Moya Moya's true essence is a potent force of self-destruction. Lino seeks clarification on the term used for this type of latent ability. Ohim-sama describes it as a power that gifted individuals subconsciously conceal to hinder their own growth. The spirit notes that to unleash the power, Marius must confront her profound self-denial. Linos realizes that since it concerns her heart, resolving it will be quite challenging. He understands this may be even tougher than liberating her from her status as a criminal slave. The Great Spirit expresses gratitude to Lino, who humbly insists it was nothing. Ohim-sama encourages him to depend on her, directly addressing him as Linos. The spirit clarifies that the teleportation magic he observed is a form of barrier arts. Linus is astonished, realizing the barrier magic he used to arrive was part of this ability. He inquires about how to create the spell, curious about the specific incantation required. The panel reiterates his question about how to execute the intricate spell. Ohim-sama clarifies that he merely needs to recite the incantation to grasp its power. The spirit elaborates on the teleportation technique, which involves chanting and focusing on a target. Gon adds an important detail. The teleportation only functions for locations Linos has previously visited. Overwhelmed by this newfound knowledge, Linus marvels at the extraordinary power he has gained. The spirit smiles, stating he has received what he needs and should bring more souvenirs. Lino beams, promising to bring plenty more the next time he visits. The scene transitions to a grand castle sprawling with numerous towers beneath a darkening sky. An opulent hall within the castle is revealed, its lofty ceiling adorned with intricate coffers. In a lamplit chamber, the noblewoman, Ricolette, informs her attendant of a disturbance outside. A tearful mage disrupts the tranquility, bursting in and urgently calling for Ricoletsima. A maid apologizes profusely for the late-night intrusion into the young noblewoman's quarters. Ricolette, the noblewoman, brushes off the apology, urgently inquiring about the situation. The maid brings distressing news regarding His Majesty's serious condition. Ricolette is taken aback. Chuta, a military officer, observes the unfolding drama from a distance, his gaze sharp and calculating. Seeing her mistress in distress, the maid insists she must rush to the king's side. In the grand hall, Shuta remains a silent, imposing presence. Suddenly, a commanding voice calls out Shuta's name from off-screen. Kurumfal enters, with Riley commenting on Shuta's suspiciously swift arrival. Kurumfal's face is marked by panic, clearly overwhelmed by the situation. As Kurumfal whispers in a frenzy, Shuta calmly gestures for silence. He discreetly guides her away, cautioning that they must avoid being overheard. A heavy door slams shut, cloaking their conversation from prying ears. Kurumfal looks ready to panic, urgently asking what their next move should be. Shooter smirks, revealing this unexpected twist caught him off guard. His expression hardens with determination as he insists they need to act swiftly. The chilling weight of his words leaves Ricolette paralyzed in shock and horror. In her room, Ricolette is lost in troubled, sorrowful thoughts. A maid explains she couldn't arrange an audience for Ricolette with the king. With a sad smile, Riclette expresses gratitude to the maid for sharing her father's wishes. Staring out, she wonders if her destiny would have changed had she been born male. She reflects that her boldness might have earned her a meeting with her father. Her wistful thoughts fade into a moment of quiet, sorrowful reflection. The maid offers a pot of tea, gently suggesting her mistress warm herself. Engrossed in her sorrow, Riclette barely registers the maid's kind gesture. Her somber thoughts are abruptly interrupted as she jolts up in alarm. Shuta and Kurumfal enter the room, formally apologizing for their late-night visit. Riclette regards her guests with a distant, weary, and unwelcoming look. She coldly states that she did not summon them at this hour. Her composure falters as she desperately questions how long she must wait to see her father. Shuta calmly reassures her that her turn to meet the king is next. Frustrated, she yells that she is already aware of this. Her shoulders sag in defeat as she quietly apologizes for her outburst. Kurumfal reveals that the Prime Minister is delivering the king's final wishes. A young woman gently holds an older man's hand, begging for a moment to express her regrets. In a painful memory, she sits by his bedside, wishing to confess her love. Now, alone in a vast hall, she whispers her father's name, filled with deep sorrow. Her red-haired retainer, Shuta, formally addresses her as princess, interrupting her grief. He acknowledges her impatience, but insists there are matters to address first. With urgency, he explains that her father's deposition is imminent. Before that occurs, he declares they must act and eliminate their foes. She stares at him bewildered as he confirms they need to act now. He warns that once the emperor steps down, her position will likely be lost. Horrified, she struggles to grasp his words, disbelief etched on her face. A minister explains that once Prince Heath ascends, she will face punishment. A dark-haired woman adds that without her father's protection, the princess will be silenced. Her supporters will scatter, leaving her condemned to a life of isolation in the palace. The woman laments that they should have allied with Prince Heath sooner, but were hindered. She reveals they were barred from contacting him by the princess's own decree. Shuta discloses that the true mastermind behind her targeting is the nefarious Prime Minister, Grimont. The princess protests, confused, asserting that the Prime Minister serves the Emperor. Her expression shifts as dawning suspicion fills her as she processes the shocking claim. Shuta grins knowingly, inquiring if she has finally grasped the reality of their predicament. He discloses that Grimmon's ultimate goal is to place Prince Vilas on the throne. The princess, taken aback, demands evidence that the Prime Minister would dare such a move. The silence from Shuta speaks volumes, his face betraying no emotion. He questions her view on the current scenario with the Prime Minister's ambitions. He asserts that their sole choice is to remove anyone who stands in the way of the new emperor. Horrified, the princess comprehends the heavy burden of the decision thrust upon her. Shuta fervently claims that he and her other allies recognize her love for her nation. He expresses gratitude for her commitment, addressing her with respect as princess. The dark-haired woman adds that her governess, Kurumfal, also suffers from this dilemma. Shuta contends that her desired future and the emperor's path are now at odds. She watches, her eyes wide with anguish as the grim truth settles in. He paints a picture of her ideal nation, free from weak nobles and brimming with opportunities. She murmurs the word purge, questioning if that truly is the only way forward. The minister confirms that Prince Heath would inevitably become a pawn of the Prime Minister. Shuta, with reddish-brown hair, observes the scene with a grim determination. In shock, the blonde Riclette implores that aiding His Majesty will improve the nation. Stunned and horrified, Riclette stares blankly, unable to grasp the dire circumstances. The dark-haired lady-in-waiting, Kurumfal, hears a knock at the door, worry etched on her face. Another maid arrives, asking Kurumfal what's amiss and mentioning a summons for an audience. The maids watch in distress as a pale, lifeless Riclette learns of the Emperor's demise. Later, in her chambers, Riclette sits on the floor, dazed and engulfed in sorrow. Her maids attempt to console her, but Kurumfal intervenes, asserting she will take charge. Shuta bursts in, seizing Riclette and urgently informing her that time is running out. Kneeling before her, Shuta presents an official document, urging the princess to sign. Riclette gazes in horror, realizing the document orders a political purge. The ornate folder reveals the official decree, its intimidating text dominating the page. Shuta clarifies it's a temporary removal of foes, not a bloody coup. Kurumfal asks if the distressed Riclette will agree to their desperate scheme. Kurumfal adds her support, stating she also backs the proposal. Embracing the princess, Kurumfal pleads that all her efforts must not go to waste. She implores Ricolette to rescue the oppressed citizens of the Empire for their future. Shuta and Kurumfal watch with intense anticipation as Ricolette prepares to sign. With anguish and determination in her gaze, Ricolette makes her pivotal choice. In a flashback, her retainers call her name during that moment of immense pressure. Her thoughts drift to her father, the late emperor whose memory looms over her. She cries out, declaring that she cannot possibly fulfill what is being demanded of her. With her father just gone, she refuses to plunge the Empire into chaos. Shuta listens to her passionate refusal, maintaining a calm, unreadable demeanor. His expression softens into a gentle smile, affirming she is just as he expected. He then presents a different document, clarifying it's not the same order. Instead, he requests her to sign a simple permit for her own safety. She quietly consents, recognizing the rationale behind the protective measure. Shuta explains it will enable him to rush to her aid if danger arises. Convinced by his reasoning, Ricolette acknowledges and agrees to sign. She signs the permit as Shuta confirms he has received her signature. Her retainers pause at the door, vowing to stand by her until the very end. Left alone, Ricolette sinks to the floor, a solitary figure overwhelmed by her plight. A long-haired figure smiles faintly, one eye shadowed, hands clasped in quiet observation. A blonde woman, Ricolette, weeps in despair, crying out that she desperately wanted to see him. Overwhelmed by grief, she crumples to the ground, unleashing a heart-wrenching cry. In the grand hall, Shuta with his red hair and Kurofaru stand outside her chambers. Kurofaru calls to Shuta, noting the Empress hasn't signed the vital order. With a sly grin, Shuta glances at his partner, urging her to take another look. He lifts the document to the light, exposing its hidden nature to the baffled Kurofaru. A soft magical glow radiates from the paper as the words begin to shift. Kurofaru gasps as the ordinary permit transforms into the official purge order. Shuta reveals his trick, aware that the Empress's nature would stop her from signing. Kurofaru's back is shown as she silently contemplates the clever ruse. He confesses to having used magic on the document beforehand to guarantee their success. Kurofaru admires Shuta's cleverness, admitting his scheme made getting the signature surprisingly simple. He instructs her to take the forged document to her territory immediately, urging her to hurry. In a grand residence, a young man named Linus peers out from inside. A sharp, authoritative knock suddenly echoes at Linus's door. Cautiously, Linus cracks the door open, inquiring who is there. Two formally dressed men announce that Empress Ricolette has summoned him. Linus immediately grows suspicious, questioning why a noble would seek him out now. The men remain tight-lipped and evasive, their military demeanor noted by the cautious Linus. He presses them, asking if the matter is confidential or if he simply isn't trusted. His blunt inquiries infuriate the two men, their composure finally cracking. They charge forward with drawn swords, calling him a dog of Grimond and demanding his death. Lennox is shown beaten and tied on the floor, with his attackers looming over him. A companion remarks that with Linus dead, the Empire's safety will be guaranteed. One of the assailants explains that the barrier protecting Grimont will now be dismantled. Linus realizes this is a scheme to enable someone to take control of the Empire. His mind drifts to the Barca family, pondering if they could orchestrate such a wicked plot. The captured attacker wonders if the Crown Prince knows what his mother is up to. His accomplice realizes they intend to place Prince Velas on the throne and act as his guardians. Linus pieces it together, understanding the conspiracy revolves around the line of succession. He whispers in dread, realizing the Emperor must have been overthrown or has stepped down. A close-up of his eyes reveals shock and the dawning realization of the situation. The grim expression of the bound attacker seems to confirm Linus's suspicions. Linus reasons that if the Empress feared the Prime Minister, this move would make sense. He asks the captured men if it was Empress Ricolette who issued their orders. The attacker defiantly questions if Linus truly thinks he will speak so readily. Linus grins confidently, pointing a finger and assuring him that he believes he will. With a magical shimmer, both assassins are bound and fall into a deep sleep. His companion notes that the barrier merely induced sleep, so they might not have revealed anything. He comments on his own kindness for letting them sleep instead of resorting to torture. Linus informs his female companions that he must leave for the castle on urgent matters. Grabbing a weapon for his journey, he asks the two to keep watch over the house. The women wish him well, urging him to be cautious as he quickly departs. As he adjusts his cloak, Linus contemplates the Prime Minister and the ambitious Empress. He stands on a stone path, recognizing that her ideals clash with those of the Empire. Placing his hands on a table, he resolves to head to the castle. With his fox-like familiar, he calls upon the princess's power to teleport to a castle chamber. He crouches low upon arrival, ready to spring into action. Upon reaching his destination, he finds a prime minister surrounded by soldiers shouting his name. Linus lunges forward with astonishing speed, yelling for the prime minister to duck. He forcefully shoves the two would-be assassins aside, saving the elderly man. The prime minister grunts as he lands safely on the ground. The man saved, along with his entourage, showered Linus with heartfelt thanks for his timely arrival. The prime minister inquires if assassins targeted his home as well. Linus affirms this, questioning whether the emperor has indeed been overthrown as the assassin suggested. With a somber nod, the prime minister concedes that this is true. Suddenly, he erupts in fury, declaring that he is the true ruler of the empire. He rants angrily about the absurdity of those celebrating his supposed retirement. Linus calmly remarks that the nobles who attacked him share a similarly foolish perspective. The prime minister reveals that the assailants are the third and fourth sons of a count. He speculates that a very astute advisor must be guiding Empress Ricolette for this scheme to succeed. Linus requests additional details about the mastermind, a woman named Kurifaru. One of the captured sons claims the instigators are either Shuda or Kurifaro. He then desperately yells that Kurifaro is innocent, trying to shield her. The prime minister asks Linus if they should further interrogate the captives, but Linus refuses. The prisoner mutters that they were merely following orders and have no further information. Linus deduces that Kurifaru, Ricolette's childhood governess, must have instilled better judgment in her. The prime minister questions whether Linus thinks the empress is aware of the situation. Linus agrees that it's improbable someone so close to Ricolette is being kept uninformed. The prime minister asserts that regardless of the specifics, Linus must bear the consequences. He coldly informs a shocked Linus that this responsibility entails a death sentence. Linus stares in disbelief, questioning the prime minister's astonishing pronouncement. A peculiar vision materializes, showing a cheerful young man in modern attire holding a newspaper. The scene transitions to a girl with long hair and headphones, a date marked beside her. A final image reveals a girl with short silver hair, another date highlighted in a red circle.